Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was in Game of Thrones. Many know Robert's first, and only, legitimate child was stillborn. But what if that was wrong? What if the gods, namely the Shinigami, intervened at the last moment? What if the deity pulled a hero from his collection and placed it in the child? To become a hero of the Seven Kingdoms? Empowered to combat treachery? To bring peace to the world? His name? Naruto of House Baratheon. Welcome aboard! Chapter 9 Coming Together Part 2. Winterfell at the moment. Arya was never so happy to see her mother. After everything that happened in King's Landing with the death of her father's bannermen, her water-dancing master Syrio, and dealing with the events of leaving the city. Every day the group heading north made progress, Arya felt her fear slowly growing, and it made the girl a nervous wreck. What if they were stopped? What if this group of murderers, rapists, thieves, and other criminals found out she wasn't a boy? That she was girl? What if the Lannister soldiers came, recognized her as Ned Stark's daughter? Robb Stark's sister? Would she be killed? Or worse, a prisoner of the Lannisters while they did unspeakable things to her? She had heard stories from people on the way to the north about Joffrey hurting Sansa in the middle of the throne room of the Red Keep. Punishment for Robb winning one victory after the next in his war against the Lannisters. Not to mention word reaching her of the Iron Islands launching an invasion fleet on the north also made the young girl worry for her home. But some hope came in the form someone named Naruto, who kicked Joffrey out of the Iron Throne and position of King of the Seven Kingdoms. Not only that, but the man was the legitimate son of King Robert Baratheon, and being older than Joffrey meant he was to be king by right of succession. Still, it wasn't until she came home to Winterfell, and met discreetly with Maester Luwin did she feel secure in the castle. The wise old Maester and Ser Roderick had agreed to keep her presence in Winterfell a secret for a time being until the war was over. It would keep the Lannister agents looking for the girl from finding her in the one place they wouldn't or couldn't look in the first place. But now the war seemed to be ending and the Northern Army had returned after a long campaign of fighting House Lannister. Oh, my child. My Arya. Words cannot express how good it is to see you again. I prayed to the gods for your safe return and they were answered, replied Catelyn while she just hugged her daughter with all the loving strength a mother possessed. I missed you too, mother. I heard so many stories making my way north. I was afraid to imagine what was true and what was false, said Arya while she saw her mother smile more. Let's go inside and I'll tell you some of the true ones, replied Catelyn while she walked inside of the castle walls with her daughter and both were eager to bond anew. Arya would always be a wolf girl at heart. Not unlike her Aunt Lyanna. But as for right now, she had no problem just being a girl and spending time with her mother. Besides, she could always spend time with Brienne of Tarth and learn how such a woman became the fighter she was now. King's Landing 2 weeks later. The planned gathering took longer than either house would have liked. For House Stark, it was to secure the north, and to purge the remaining bannermen loyal to House Bolton despite there being no legitimate member of the house alive. Ramsay was a bastard and was killed during the battle at the Dreadfort where all of the house's sinful acts had been brought to light. Ramsay's own mistresses had to be put to the sword when some of the braver servants forced to work at the Dreadfort told Robb that the women who were sleeping with and sharing Ramsay had joined in on the bastard's hunts along with the torturing of innocent smallfolk for their own amusement. Naturally, the two women had protested at first before more servants grew brave, seeing this one chance to bring about justice to their tortured lives. This brought about a change from pleas of innocence to rage of madness from the women, who vowed revenge, cursed, spit, and screamed at the servants betraying them along with recently deceased Ramsay Snow. Needless to say, they were put to the sword along with most of those who served such a wretched house. As for House Lannister, things took as long as they did due to gathering up everyone who was guilty, and having them all properly shackled. Cersei had tried to flee with Joffrey by ship leaving Lannisport, but was caught by the guards before they could get on the ship. The captain of the ship, ironically named Family Ties, was loyal to Tywin Lannister for the good deal of business done between Westeros and Essos. As such, when Cersei had booked passage on his ship for Essos, and saw how she was clearly intending to flee the Seven Kingdoms for other places, a poor excuse to delay long enough to inform some of House Lannister's men of the act stopped it from happening, but that was only a small part of the issue. The other issue was capturing and containing Gregor Clegane for his journey to King's Landing. The king had made it clear that all guilty parties in everything involving this mindless war were to be brought to the city in order to face judgment and justice for their crimes. Gregor Clegane had done much long before the issue with House Tully and destroying the Riverlands in order to draw out Ned Stark when the man was still alive. But Gregor Clegane didn't stop what he was doing, even after Ned Stark had been put the sword, his own sword, by the king's justice at the stairs in front of the September of Baelor, a move even Tywin Lannister himself thought the manner in which it was done was as horrible as it was stupid on Joffrey's part. When the war officially began, the Mountain unleashed his violent tendencies as only the large man could bring about during this war, and under normal circumstance would have made Tywin Lannister proud of his mad dog. But not this time. The current king of Westeros wanted Gregor Clegane brought to King's Landing to face his punishment for the actions done to innocent people in the past. Tywin knew refusal was not an option here, as the king could easily condemn him in Gregor's place, and he could decree all lands owned by House Lannister forfeit for defying him. Robert didn't do anything because the man didn't run the Seven Kingdoms properly and owed Tywin too much when taking the Iron Throne in the first place. His son held no such debt. Oh, the crown did owe his house 3 million in gold dragons. No question. But would the king allow such a debt be used against him if Tywin called in the debt? Highly unlikely. If anything, the current king could decree the amount owed would be wiped clean due to the expense of the war and refocus on paying what was owed to the Iron Bank. Tywin also knew his one true grandson from this debacle of a marriage with Robert and Cersei was not afraid to flex his muscle in a military fashion. To spill blood and the blood of his possible enemies if they so much as sneezed in his direction. News of the twins and two houses being destroyed at the Red Wedding had reached him, and the old lion felt a sense of reminiscence of history repeating itself. Just Tywin himself had crushed two rebelling houses back in his youth. The king that was his grandson had done the same in his own unique way. The old lion was proud of his grandson. Naruto would have been a good heir to Casterly Rock if he wasn't already king. My legacy is secured through my grandson on the Iron Throne. Not my children or the three they sired together with their incestuous affair, thought Tywin, while he knew his children would have to pay a heavy price for their actions. And not just them. Kevan had come to him earlier and told him of Lancel's affair with Cersei after she had come to Lannisport. His brother had beaten his son bloody for his actions, calling him a sinner, and having the boy dragged away in chains. Tywin knew if his brother was 10 years younger, he would send his son to the wall before attempting to have another child worthy of being called a Lannister. As things stood, Lancel would have to be brought before the king, and most likely beg for mercy before Naruto for his actions against King Robert in getting the man too drunk to defend himself against the boar that killed him. "My lord, we are ready to move out to King's Landing," said one of the Lannister men, who had knocked and entered the old lion's office. "Good. We leave now. Make sure all our prisoners are kept shackled and restrained. Keep out of arm's reach of Gregor Clegane. While he is in chains, the man's strength is every bit as legendary as the stories say, and he will use it to find a way to break free," said Tywin, knowing Gregor had not been pleased at his betrayal using drugged food and wine before his men quickly put the man in those heavy chains once they saw the man fall over onto the floor in a slump. Even after the massive man was on the ground unconscious, Tywin's men were hesitant to move in to restrain the giant in the event there was still some measure of strength to fight back. It was only after the chains were firmly locked and checked 3 times did the men of House Lannister let out a sigh of relief. After binding the Mountain, it was child's play to do the same with Amory Lorch and the others under banners. "You can't do this to us, father. This is wrong," pleaded Cersei from her carriage window while each door was locked to ensure neither she nor her son escaped. Joffrey himself was spouting curses at everyone on the other side, demanding his release, and how he would have everyone's head on a pike. An armored fist to the door and a firm command to shut up from one of the men silenced the boy quickly enough. Tywin Lannister himself ignored his daughter and grandson before he commanded their entire armed escort to march toward King's Landing. Because the man needed to take his entire blood-related family in his possession with him, Tywin had left one of his trusted lords in charge of the city until his return. Kevan was beside him on horseback, his face also grim, and they both knew it was time for House Lannister to pay their debts to the king. And what a massive debt it was. Winterfell at the moment. "Are we ready?" asked Robb while Ser Roderick nodded. "I wish you would take me with you, my lord. I feel my life would be of better use to you at King's Landing and not here at Winterfell," said Ser Roderick with Robb smiling, but it quickly became serious. "I already lost your nephew Jory to King's Landing. I'm not about to risk you, Ser Roderick. Besides, I need you here to help protect Winterfell and the north. Not to mention Bran will need you to help guide him in matters Maester Luwin cannot until my return, said Robb with Ser Rodrik nodding. I understand, my lord. Is it true the king wishes to legitimize Jon Snow and make him a Stark? Asked Ser Rodrik with Robb nodding. Aye, the king does intend to make it happen. Why? Are you against it? Speak truthfully, Ser Rodrik. I won't be upset, replied Robb with Ser Rodrik thinking his words over in his mind before speaking. When I first heard about Jon being Ned's bastard, I admit, there was a time where I did not like him for what he was, and what he represented. But as the boy grew, he didn't beg for scraps, he didn't complain when hurt, and knew right away what his station in life was even if hating it. Not once did he lash out. Not once did he whine or complain about his position here in Winterfell. Jon worked hard to prove himself to Ned. To you. To just about everyone in the north that he was worthy of being called a Stark. If any bastard out there deserves to be legitimized, it is him, said Ser Rodrik with Robb nodding. Mother is against it. I have things that need to be spoken about it, but now is not the time for us to talk. It will have to wait until things calm down before I do, said Robb while he saw Ser Rodrik gave him a knowing smile. You forget, your mother is a Tully, my lord. Everyone in Westeros knows that all of the members of House Tully are a stubborn lot. But I know if anyone can reach her on this issue, it is her son. Ned almost convinced her to have it happen years ago. You being of her own blood should make the challenge easier, remarked Ser Rodrik while Robb just grimaced. You said it yourself, Ser Rodrik. My mother is a Tully. I would have a better chance of befriending the wildlings, replied Robb while Ser Rodrik laughed. I suppose that is true, my lord. Still, good luck to you in King's Landing. May the old gods and the new smile upon your house once more, said Ser Rodrik with Robb giving the loyal man a smile and nod. I will see you soon, my friend. Take care of my family. I'm counting on you, said Robb before he looked back and sought his escort along with the 2 carriages, each holding his prisoners right behind him. You can count on me, my lord, said Ser Rodrik while he saw Brienne of Tarth helping Horder working on the stables with Bran on his back and no doubt trying to understand why the giant man could only say his name. But at least she was polite about not being repulsed by him the inability to say anything but his name. Brienne of Tarth seems to be enjoying herself in the north, commented Robb while Ser Rodrik laughed. Aye. She's a big strong woman. If it wasn't for the fact her last name was Tarth, I would swear she could pass for a Mormont, said Ser Rodrik with Robb nodding since he knew the women of House Mormont were big and strong like Brienne of Tarth. Treat her with respect, Ser Rodrik. Brienne of Tarth has more than earned it in my eyes. She is to be welcomed here in the north like it was a second home. I will accept nothing less, commanded Robb firmly with Ser Rodrik nodding. She has served your mother well and your wife since coming into their service. I would be dishonoring myself if we did anything else, replied Ser Rodrik with Robb smiling again. Good. I will return soon, said Robb before motioning his group forward to head to King's Landing. You better, my lord. Your wife strikes me as the kind of woman who will not tolerate anything else, called out Ser Rodrik and hearing Robb Stark laughing at him getting the last word in. King's Landing days later. Your Grace, both houses have arrived with their escort as commanded, said a member of the Kingsguard to Naruto, who was heading to meet them. And the prisoners? Asked Naruto casually. Restrained, Your Grace. Though the mountain has been the more difficult one to restrain given his size and overall strength, said the Kingsguard with Naruto frowning while he made his way to the gate where the large group of soldiers from both houses eyeing each other carefully for any kind of trap. The prisoners had already been taken out of their carriages and cages on their respected sides, though the mountain was being increasingly difficult. Around them were the City Watch and Kingsguard with orders to keep both houses from killing each other. I see everyone is here with those they promised to produce for these peace talks. Good. Take the prisoners to the black cells. The sides representing House Lannister and House Stark will follow me to the Red Keep. We will meet with the rest of the small council to deliberate peace talks and determine what needs to be done to officially end this war, said Naruto with an air of authority in his voice as he gazed upon both lords of these two houses. You will pay for this, Naruto. Do you hear me? I will see you dead for this, exclaimed Cersei angrily while she struggled with her son Joffrey to escape her captors. Unlikely. Get my whore for a mother out of here before I take my sword to her head myself, commanded Naruto coldly while his men did just that along with the other prisoners. Your Grace. I wish to thank you again for your intervention at the twins. If you had not arrived when you did, I would have lost not only my life, but my mother's, my wife's, my unborn child, and the lives of all my loyal bannermen. On behalf of all those in the north you saved that day, thank you, said Robb Stark, who bowed humbly before the king of the Seven Kingdoms. You are welcome, Lord Stark, replied Naruto with a small smile before he motioned. I see you have improved King's Landing since I was here last. The smell is actually tolerable, commented Tywin with Naruto smirking. Well, if I am to rule over the Seven Kingdoms, the very center of power shouldn't smell like shit. My father never cared much for his rule and let things spiral out of control. He let his master of coin bleed the crown dry. He let those on the small council, with the exception of a few, run amok and make things problematic for every one of the people living in it. I see everything my father did wrong and planned to correct those mistakes by doing the opposite of him, said Naruto while he walked with them into the Red Keep before they entered small council chambers, and were met with another unexpected surprise. Ah! This must be the new king I have been hearing about on my travels throughout the Seven Kingdoms. King Naruto of House Baratheon, exclaimed one Oberyn Martell with a smile on his face, his seat at the long table. I'm sorry, Your Grace, but Prince Oberyn insisted he come here for this. We would have had some men remove him, but the risk of things getting too violent as a result was too great a risk, said Varys, knowing the Dornish prince was a passionate fighter as he was a lover and would lash out the viper he was named after. It's all right, Varys. It's been too long, Prince Oberyn. The last time we saw each other, it was in the fighting pits of Meereen. You were on the ground with the pointy tip of your broken spear aimed at my side and I had my sword aimed down right at your throat, said Naruto with Oberyn laughing. Yes. It was a great match. I have had only a handful that could come close to it. After I left, I found few could challenge me the way you did in a fight. To think you would one day become king of the Seven Kingdoms, exclaimed Oberyn before getting up, and he surprised everyone by giving Naruto a hug. Well, it wasn't exactly planned. I had wanted to spend my time in Essos, but the call to my home in King's Landing was too strong to ignore, said Naruto with Oberyn letting the young king go and patting him on the shoulder. Yes. I heard how your brother Joffrey was running things when he was king. Horrible ruler. I hear he was hurting Ned Stark's oldest daughter. Horrible. Unlike the rest of Westeros, we do not hurt little girls in Dorne. We consider such acts to be sinful beyond measure, said Oberyn, since he had 3 daughters himself who, while bastards, were all beautiful as they were deadly, and he cherished them greatly. It was a shame his brother wouldn't have them legitimized. But alas, that was the deal they made regarding his sexual appetites. He could go around having his own small army of bastard children. Boy or girl. But none of them could be legitimized as a Martell. Which was fine with Oberyn, since he would rather have an army of bastard children sired from numerous women he could love in his own way over a handful of legitimized children from a single woman. Speaking of little girls, how is my half-sister, Myrcella? Asked Naruto while Oberyn's smile went from wild to kind. She is doing well. I last saw her in the gardens with my nephew. He is quite smitten with her. No doubt he will be faithful to her when their marriage is official. And here I was hoping to convince him to have a mistress or two, said Oberyn while Naruto blared at him. I would prefer your nephew stay faithful to my half-sister. I don't need her turning into her mother, said Naruto sternly with Oberyn nodding since he had a point. Fair enough. Besides, Doran would imprison me for the next 20 years if I tried to turn his son into another version of myself. Pity. Dorne will continue being a boring place under their rule, commented Oberyn before letting out a sarcastic sigh while Naruto bit back a chuckle before getting serious. Sit. All of you. It's time we settled this business and we had peace between these two houses within the Seven Kingdoms, said Naruto while sitting at the head of the table and motioned for all parties to sit down in their chairs. Agreed. This war has been a long one and winter is coming, said Robb Stark while he sat down across from Tywin Lannister and kept his face like ice. Literally in this case, given summer is now over, commented Tyrion while he sat beside his father. Which is why this peace between houses is needed now more than ever. Long summers have winters that are twice as long. This war has already sapped a great deal of food and supplies we could have stored away for such an event. And all because people schemed in the shadows to see two great houses clash in the hopes one would fall while the other would be weak enough to manipulate into being a pawn in the greater scheme of things, said Naruto while Tywin nodded in agreement since he had heard what happened to the fool Littlefinger for his role in things. That and his daughter Cersei. House Lannister is ready for peace, your grace, said Tywin calmly. As is House Stark, added Robb Stark with own politeness. Good. Robb Stark of House Stark, seeing how your house was wronged in all of this from the start, the floor is yours in regards to what it will take for the North to embrace peace with the Western lands, said Naruto while gesturing Robb to start. My first demand would have been for the head of Littlefinger. But that was taken care of by you for his overall treachery, your grace. My thanks to you for the justice you and your house has delivered to us for that. My next demand would be for the head of Jaime Lannister. I have it on good authority Jaime Lannister pushed my brother out of the tower after he was caught with Cersei when they were fornicating, said Robb while glaring at Tywin Lannister. Jaime is to be the heir to Casterly Rock. Given some of his actions were outside of the realm of being a Kingsguard, I assume he was removed from his position, and thus the restrictions placed on someone from the Kingsguard no longer applies. I still need him to settle down with a woman and provide me with proper heirs of his own to one day in order to inherit the West. Preferably ones not conceived in the manner that the first three were, countered Tywin, as he glared at Robb Stark. Your son committed acts of treason multiple times over. Sins against the laws of gods and men. He should have taken the black years ago, exclaimed Robb while he resisted the urge to growl like a wolf. My son has done many things. I will admit it. But if you think I will allow anyone here to send him to the wall or death, you are sadly mistaken, remarked Tywin angrily. Why focus on your eldest son? Tyrion is a far better choice over Jaime in being Lord of Casterly Rock and the West when you pass on, questioned Robb while glancing briefly at Tyrion, who was wearing the Hand of the King pendant. The same one Robb's father wore prior to Joffrey's ascension to temporary kinghood. Who I choose to have as my heir to Casterly Rock is my own choice boy. Jaime has the potential to rule over Casterly Rock despite his decisions in life. It wasn't until now did I realize his sister is the corrupting force between the two of them. You can kill Cersei if you wish, but not Jaime, said Tywin while Robb growled this time. If Jaime is not put to the sword or sent to the wall, there will be no peace with House Stark. There will be no peace from the north. We will break away from the rest of the Seven Kingdoms and rule over what is ours, threatened Robb Stark coldly. Let us not resort to threats so early during these talks. Much of the bad blood you all feel right now are meant for those we have imprisoned and need to be punished for all of their crimes. Jaime is one of many who must be dealt with accordingly. There is still the issue of several other people who have to be punished for their crimes. As Tywin mentioned, his daughter Cersei Lannister and her son Joffrey are among them, said Naruto with Tywin nodding and mentally thanking the king for diverting things away from Jaime. Agreed. Cersei's actions with Joffrey both in his creation and allowing him to do what he wished without bringing him to heel were criminal. Both of them have shamed House Lannister for their actions, said Tywin while Robb's eyes became even colder. I heard a rumor he was torturing my sister Sansa in the throne room right before King Naruto took over. Is this true? Asked Robb while Naruto nodded and so did Varys. The boy almost used her for target practice with his crossbow, added Varys for good measure. The wall is too good for Joffrey. Death is a permanent punishment for the likes of him, said Robb while he saw Tywin had no problem with that. Done. The boy is staying on House Lannister. My time fighting this pointless war and my time returning home during the ceasefire allowed me the means to hear all the stories about my bastard for a grandson and his sinful exploits with his mother's support, said Tywin while he was silently infuriated how his spoiled daughter could give birth to such a monster and not see boyhood madness running through his head like the Mad King did. One Mad King was bad enough, but there had almost been another one sitting on the Iron Throne to continue the reign of madness. And Cersei? Asked Naruto knowing this was entering territory of the family. They were talking about Tywin's daughter and Naruto's mother. If allowed to live, she will continue to find ways to plot, scheme, and plan for our deaths in some horrible manner. Put her to the sword, after we kill Joffrey. If Cersei is to suffer at all before dying, it must be in this manner, said Robb Stark while Tywin glanced at him coldly for a second. But it left Old Lion knowing the girl he raised to one day become queen had forsaken her right to be his daughter the moment she had an incestuous relationship with Jaime and the recent one with her cousin Lancel. Glancing over at his brother, Kevin Lannister nodded it was for the best they agreed to that since Cersei had become too wild to guarantee she could be controlled by others. Not for long anyway. Agreed. Cersei shall die after Joffrey loses his head, said Tywin while knowing it was sadly for the best. What of Myrcella and Tommen? Asked Tyrion curiously. Fortunately, Myrcella being a product of Cersei's and Jaime being together can be in dispute given how much my half-sister looks like her mother. Tommen not so much, said Naruto while glancing over at Oberyn for a second, knowing the man did not hold it against the girl that she was conceived in such a fashion. The Dornish man had more bastards under his belt than Naruto's own father. I move to have both Myrcella and Tommen legitimized as Lannisters, said Tyrion in a sudden act of boldness. You have no say in that regard, Tyrion, said Tywin while Tyrion looked at his father with a scowl on his face. And you do? Myrcella and Tommen are still family. They have none of the madness their older brother possesses and do not deserve to be labeled as bastards. Naruto himself has seen the gentle nature of Tommen, and Myrcella is to be married to Prince Doran's son. I won't sit back and let two innocent lives suffer by our hands simply because their parents were horrible people, exclaimed Tyrion while Tywin scowled at his young child. Tyrion is right, Lord Tywin. Tommen is a good lad who seeks to learn and expand his mind to new knowledgeable things. Good qualities for a maester. My half-brother has a strong head on his shoulders. Myrcella only inherited her mother's looks. None of the vile wickedness Cersei embraces and nurtured in Joffrey. To punish them is unjust, and I won't be that type of king. Consider both of them legitimized, said Naruto with Tyrion smiling and nodding to his nephew. There is an issue regarding Amory Lorch and Gregor the Mountain Clegane, said Robb while Prince Oberyn now looked more focused on the meeting. I agree. They both butchered countless people in the Riverlands. Your mother's very home and the home of House Tully. They have killed men, raped women, some even to children, and once done burned those innocent people alive. The people demand justice for their crimes. And not just in the Riverlands. The Seven Kingdoms demand the heads of those two men, and by every god in existence the people will get it, said Naruto while glancing at Tywin, knowing the man had unleashed the mad dog of House Lannister on multiple occasions like this one. If I may interject for a moment regarding this particular moment and make a request, Your Grace, but like many, I have a deep personal reason to want these two men, said Oberyn while standing slowly, and for the first time for many of them, he was not the hot-headed passionate man people knew him to be from past events. Yes. I know. You told me the story after I revealed my own heritage to you when we were in the fighting pits holding cells of Meereen. Your sister and her children, said Naruto while Oberyn nodded and glared silently at Tywin. Your mad dog and pig monster raped and killed my sister. Her children. My niece and baby nephew were butchered like animals, less than animals, before Arya was raped. The blood still fresh and red on their bodies when they violated her and laughed while they did it. In my deepest darkest nightmares, I hear Arya calling to me from the beyond. I hear he screaming out for help. My help. Help to save her. Her children. I know these horrible things were done on your orders, Tywin Lannister. I know it. You knows it. In fact, everyone in the Seven Kingdoms knows it. Yet despite the crime done to our house, my brother does nothing to avenge her with a war against you. I can understand why. He feels powerless and loves his people to the point where the idea of a war for one woman that is our sister is not worth the price of countless Dornish lives. I can understand his reasons as a ruler and respect that. I really do. But the brother in me who loves his family and Arya above all else does not. I know I will never have the great pleasure of running my poison-covered spear upon Tywin Lannister for the order, but I can at least kill the next best thing and slay the vile monster who killed my sister. Who killed her children? I ask that I be the one to kill the mountain when the time comes to take his head off his shoulders, said Oberyn while he looked right into Naruto's eyes with a cold fire in them that lacked all the passion the man had when it came to fight or fucking. This was a time to be extremely serious. Deadly serious. Agreed. While many would wish to kill the mountain your place, namely the man's own brother, I'm not about to have the hound be a kinslayer anytime soon. Still, I won't deny him the satisfaction of killing someone close to his brother, and will have Sandor Clegane take Amory Lorch's head as compensation. Does anyone here object to this outcome for these two men, said Naruto while everyone stayed silent. No. As long as those two monsters die, said Robb at last while he stared directly into the eyes of Tywin Lannister. Agreed. Besides, my sons cannot control either man if they were to take my place as the Lord of House Lannister. And Cersei herself is no different despite her own manipulative ways. My brother Kevin here might be able to control Lorch for a time, but the mountain is a different story. Especially now. When I eventually die, those two will still be running around uncontrollably, and while I am heartless at times, the Seven Kingdoms does not need that type of cruelty unleashed upon it, said Tywin admittedly, since he knew his age was catching up to him and it wouldn't be long before the mad dog saw his chance to run around without fear of displeasing the old lion. And their men, asked Robb, knowing those two commanded those just like them. They will either go to the wall or lose their heads to a sword, said Naruto, with Robb grimacing, since Jon was there and some of those men might target him if they learned of his blood relation to House Stark. The wall is in need of more men. Lord Commander Mormont has been increasing his requests for the wall as of late to keep out the wildlings, offered Tyrion, since it was true. Agreed. Finally, there is also the issue of Lancel Lannister. Your son, if I'm not mistaken, my great-uncle. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here with your son among the many scared prisoners, said Naruto while Kevin nodded humbly. My son has shamed his house. I won't dispute it. To do so would be an insult, since you already know what he did up to this point. For his crimes, the only hope for redemption in the eyes of gods and men is to either take the black or be put to the sword. Neither one I can stand, as one is instant death and the other is arguably worse, given how the wall is filled mostly with vile criminals. Criminals who we all know would have no problem making someone of Lannister blood suffer. As such, I ask for mercy for my son. Mercy from you, the king, to spare my son the fate of the sword and the wall in the hopes he could somehow serve the crown once more in a positive light, said Kevin while Naruto merely frowned at him. Your son conspired with my mother to kill my father, who just happened to be the king of the Seven Kingdoms. He skirts the line near kinslaying due to my father marrying my mother, and he helped in a conspiracy to commit kingslaying. The only reason I do not charge him with kingslaying is because the boar killed my father, not him. Still, what he helped do is not a forgivable offense. No matter how much you would beg me to show him my mercy when it comes to deciding his fate, Lancel must be punished, said Naruto while Kevin nodded. I know your grace. Which is why I am offering to go to the wall in my son's place if you would show him mercy, said Kevin, with Tywin looking at his brother in surprise. Kevin, exclaimed Tywin while he saw his brother looking him right in the eyes. I cannot lose my son Tywin. Just like you won't stand to lose Jaime. I am prepared to meet any price that allows my son to live and redeem himself long enough to have an heir that will not shame our house, said Kevin while Tywin nodded, since he could see that. No, said Naruto while Kevin looked at him. Your grace, asked Kevin with Naruto's hand raised. While I respect your desire to save your son my wrath and the punishment we all know he so rightfully deserves, I will not allow you to take his place. However, I will propose an alternative that will benefit everyone here. Even you, Lord Tywin. But know that this offer is a one-time deal. If you say no to this offer now, there will be no recourse but the wall or the sword for either of your sons, said Naruto while Tywin and Kevin looked at each other. What is the offer? Asked Tywin while knowing his grandson was not going to show them any more leeway than he already did. The old lion could respect that. It was an action worthy of a Lannister. Black Cell sometime later. Jaime Lannister could honestly say he hated being a prisoner more than he hated being called the Kingslayer and the son of Tywin Lannister. It was bad enough that he was the North's prisoner, but now this? It was going to make him go mad and start acting like a raving lunatic. This was not the kind of legacy he intended to leave behind for himself or have stories told about him regarding his time outside of being Tywin Lannister's son. When he first joined the Kingsguard, Jaime expected to live a life of fame, glory, and even a sense of fulfillment outside of his father's control, if not his very shadow. It had certainly pissed the old lion off something fierce, which was an added bonus for him. And yet, it had not been the glory Jaime had expected. Oh, he learned under the best in Ser Barristan, the bold as his squire. There was no higher honor. Knights would literally kill for it, if not for the fact actually killing for said position would get you sent to the wall, or your head put to the sword. Once Jaime became a Kingsguard, it was for life, which didn't bother him so much as the fact he couldn't have lands, titles, sans the knight part, and heirs to your name. It had upset Tywin Lannister something fierce the moment that happened and had tried repeatedly to get his son out of it. If there was one thing the old lion obsessed over aside from the strength of one's house, it was a heir worthy of said house, and continuation of its strength for the next generation. Jaime spent many of his years in the Kingsguard serving a king who had gone mad while he sat on the Iron Throne. Seeing the man burn people alive, raping his wife/sister the queen, and other horrible things that made it easy for many houses to side with Robert Baratheon during the rebellion. They saw it as a chance for a fresh start. A chance for a king to rule over them instead of burning them alive and laughing like a lunatic in the process. Aside from putting down the Greyjoy rebellion, their new king left much to be desired in terms of ruling over them. Always drinking, hunting, whoring, and barely ever going to a small council meeting when they required his attention. The only solace Jaime had was the man didn't have an obsession with setting people on fire and talking to himself or invisible things that did not exist. The door to his cell opened by this point and Jaime looked up to see his actual nephew born from Cersei's womb walk into the room with a neutral look on his face. Behind him at the door was Sandor Clegane, who was watching with great interest, and had a smile on his face like he was just given full immunity for killing his older brother. "Ah, dear nephew. I get to see you in person without the crowd of people to stop us from having a conversation. You are looking well. I can't say the same for myself, but it is to be expected given my time enjoying northern hospitality," said Jaime with his usual wit about him. "Cut the crap, uncle. I'm not here to speak to the witty Jaime Lannister who has his head so far up his own ass that his hair should be a much darker color. I'm here on business." "Kingly business," said Naruto in a serious tone, and it removed the witty-looking smile off of Jaime's face. "Ah, I see. So why are you here? Come to pardon me? Set me free? Hand me over to my father, who after having me restrained to give my body a through beating, will command me to marry a woman of his choosing, and give him a small army of heirs? Preferably of the male persuasion," asked Jaime before he was surprisingly punched right in the face by Naruto. "I told you not to speak to me in such a manner, uncle. I'm here on serious business. Your father, my grandfather, knows the truth about my mother's other children. He knows you are the father of Cersei's children after myself," said Naruto coldly while Jaime spit out some blood that was in his mouth following the punch. "I see. I imagine father will not be coming to my aid in freeing me," asked Jaime with Naruto's hand becoming a fist again, but held back from hitting him for being witty. "On the contrary. He has come to your aid. Your father wants you back at Casterly Rock and giving him proper heirs to House Lannister's name. Robb Stark wants your head, and if not that, he wants you at the wall to freeze your ass off to the end of time. As king of the Seven Kingdoms, I had to find a solution which all parties are happy, and believe me when I say it was not easy," answered Naruto with Jaime looking up at him. "And what did your grace decide to do with me?" asked Jaime curiously. "As much as justice demands you die for your crimes, your father is my grandfather by blood, and as such his feelings should be considered in this matter. For some reason, he still has high hopes for you. Hopes that I nor anyone else seem to believe in, given your past history clearly showing just how lazy you are in terms doing anything. So, I made a deal with him and Robb Stark. I presented a solution in which all parties will find to be adequate and everyone wins," said Naruto while Jaime was getting more curious. "And what deal was that?" asked Jaime with confusion on his face. "Simple. You are to return to Casterly Rock with your father. Once there, you will spend the next few years courting a woman not of Lannister blood, marrying, and proceed to spend every possible chance getting said woman pregnant with your child, who will one day be the heir to Casterly Rock," answered Naruto while Jaime raised an eyebrow. "That doesn't sound so bad. But how does Robb Stark win in all of this deal you made with my father?" asked Jaime with Naruto smirking now. "Because after you give birth to said child, regardless of gender, you are being sent north to the wall. You will spend the rest of your days there, freezing your ass off, and never laying with another woman ever again. The Night's Watch has strict rules regarding those who break their oaths should they lay with a woman and have a child with them. If you did, you would be killed along with the woman and the child in her womb," said Naruto with Jaime wincing since the rule generally called for the death of the one who broke the oath and all parties connected to it. "No exceptions." "I suppose it could be worse," remarked Jaime, since he could have just been sent to the wall or killed outright without a trial. He could always try a trial by combat, but something told him the king would put him in front of someone even Jaime at peak physical condition could not best. "Believe me, it could have been. I also added in that in the event you have a girl, the right to rule Casterly Rock upon your father's death goes directly to Tyrion since he is the only other male heir left. Naturally, your father hated that stipulation, but I told him to think of it as incentive for you to perform your duty to House Lannister. You only get one shot at having a son for a child with the woman you will soon marry, and providing a proper heir as Tywin Lannister's eldest son, said Naruto while Jaime grimaced before focusing on other matters. And Cersei? Asked Jaime while knowing this issue and the person behind were not shown 1 ounce of mercy. Death. No question. No exception. Your father even agreed to it with no resistance on his part when Robb Stark demanded it. That goes the same for Joffrey, said Naruto with his tone going cold again. I don't suppose you could have him take the black instead of you taking a sword to his neck, asked Jaime with Naruto's eyes narrowing. After everything he's done? He tortured innocent people when on the Iron Throne and when he ruled Lannisport to the point where people wanted to revolt against him. He ordered the death of my bastard half-siblings and some of them were just babies. Babies. They may have been bastards, but they were still of my blood. He ordered the death of my father's most loyal friend and former hand of the king in front of the September of Baelor. In front of the man's own daughter no less while she begged Joffrey for mercy. Look me in the eyes and tell me the brat deserves to live at the wall over dying for his crimes. Look me in the eyes and tell me the wall is a better punishment for your bastard for a son who is, to my shame I might add, my half-brother, said Naruto while staring right into his uncle's green eyes and saw the man look away. Well, when you put it like that, commented Jaime while Naruto leaned back. Fortunately for you, both Myrcella and Tommen will be legitimized as Lannisters, but due to their means of being conceived, they will not inherit anything from their house. Not that it matters since Myrcella will marry into House Martell and Dorne and Tommen has been the ward of your brother Tyrion for a while now. But the fact still remains in regards to the rest of this messed family, Cersei will die, Joffrey will die, and you my dear uncle will watch as they die as an extension of your punishment, said Naruto while Jaime winced again. He couldn't be sure if this was a result of Naruto inheriting his father's Baratheon temper or his grandfather's Lannister temper on issues that pissed him off. When do I return home to carry out my duty? Asked Jaime while Naruto smirked. After the execution of the various individuals deserving of being put to the sword. Oh. And one more thing uncle, I have put a time limit on you being home to carry out your duty before being sent to the wall, said Naruto while Jaime winced again since he was hoping to prolong his duty for as long as possible before being sent to the wall. How long? Asked Jaime while dreading the answer. 3 years. No longer, answered Naruto while Jaime looked at him in horror. 3 years, questioned Jaime knowing it would take every single moment of his time to find the woman, marry, and proceed with the act of getting her pregnant. Would you prefer 2 years? A year and a half? It can be arranged, warned Naruto while seeing Jaime look away. 3 years is fine, whispered Jaime knowing when he was beaten. Good. Do not test me Uncle Jaime. Your father had to push for those 3 years since I originally only gave you one to do the deed. He nullified the 3 million gold dragon debt the crown owes House Lannister for it. So, I suggest you do the right thing here and do your duty with a smile on your face. Your father just spent a shitload of gold to get you free and to come home to give House Lannister a chance at a proper heir to its name. If you fuck this up, no one will save your ass, and you will have no one to blame for it but yourself, said Naruto before walking out of the cell to leave Jaime to his thoughts, and made his way to his mother's cell. So, my false son has come to gloat. Mock me. Condemn his mother to suffer and die at the hands of our enemies. You are a disgrace and an insult to my house's bloodline. I am ashamed to call you my son, exclaimed Cersei from her chained position on the ground. You are one to talk mother. Who was it that helped conspire to kill the hand of the King Jon Arryn? Her husband and King Robert Baratheon? Who was it that stirred up trouble with Ned Stark to drive a wedge between him and the king? Who was it that whispered into Joffrey's ear that he should kill all of Robert's bastards? Who here between us had an incestuous relationship with their twin brother and had 3 children as a result? Here is a hint to the answer for the last one. It wasn't me, remarked Naruto while Cersei glared up at him. Get to the point on why you are here, demanded Cersei with Naruto just staring at her with his mismatched eyes. She hated those eyes. Your fate has been decided for the sake of peace. To stop the war between House Stark and House Lannister, you and Joffrey will be put to the sword, said Naruto while Cersei looked fearful and infuriated at the same time. You would condemn your own mother to death? Your brother Joffrey too? You are no better than a kinslayer, accused Cersei angrily. He's my half-brother. And don't pretend to be some innocent woman in all of this. You and Joffrey committed horrible crimes. Did you really think yourself beyond the reach of justice? That you could do whatever you want, demanded Naruto while Cersei growled at him. I am a Lannister. I am the Queen, seething Cersei in a harsh whisper with her eyes filled with rage and madness. You are a Lannister. No question. But a queen? You are not worthy of the title. And for the record, you aren't the queen anymore. You are, or rather were, the queen regent. You lost that right a long time ago when you conspired with House Bolton and House Frye in the belief you could give them what you promised. I wonder now, how are you going to keep that promise? Or were you going to break it because keeping your word is beneath you as a Lannister? Questioned Naruto while Cersei's glare told him everything. She wasn't going to honor her promises to either house if they succeeded in their mission to betray the North and House Stark. She would retake the Iron Throne for Joffrey, put him in the seat of power, and when House Bolton and House Frye came to collect what they were owed, Cersei would easily convince Joffrey they were getting too powerful to control. Thus, would begin the action of betraying both houses while letting the enemies made by each house attack them, weaken them, and watch from the sidelines while they crumbled or became too weak to oppose the throne. I am beyond judgment, said Cersei while grinding her teeth, and Naruto leaned forward a bit. If that were even remotely true, you wouldn't be in chains right now, said Naruto before he stood up straight and left the room. It is almost hard to imagine that bitch of a woman is your mother by blood, commented the Hound while they walked out of the black cells, and ignoring the ramblings of Joffrey threatening to kill everyone who betrayed him as they did. I know. But there is an old saying regarding that fact. I believe it goes, something good can be born from something evil, said Naruto while Hound smirking. Considering how you turned out, the woman must have a shitload of evil within her, said the Hound while Naruto let out a humorless chuckle. You have no idea, remarked Naruto, knowing his mother was truly an evil woman and her death was a long time coming. Far too long. I'm surprised you let the Lannister get what they wanted out of your deal. Giving Jaime and Lancel Lannister a chance to have heirs before shipping them off to the Wall to pay for their crimes. Personally, I would have killed them and let the gods sort it out, said the Hound with Naruto just let out a small chuckle. And that, my friend, is one of the reasons why I am the king. I broker deals where all sides win and no one has a reason to fight anymore, said Naruto, since he knew his deal would give both men of House Lannister a chance to have what they wanted, and when the time limit was over, it would give House Stark what they wanted. Add to the fact Cersei, Joffrey, the Mountain, Armory Lorch, Theon Greyjoy, and a small army of other people were about to die help too. Where is the fun in that, thought Sandor Clegane while seeing Sansa Stark approaching them when they entered the courtyard. Your Grace, said Sansa Stark, as she approached the king, and curtsied in a humble manner. Lady Sansa. What brings you here? Asked Naruto, since he was headed toward the small council room again to conduct more business that required his attention. I wish to speak with you about my family, Your Grace, replied Sansa while she walked with him toward the Red Keep. What about your family? Did you not meet your brother and catch up on everything that has happened? Asked Naruto curiously. Yes, we did. We spoke a great deal. Robb asked me about my time in King's Landing. Before and after Joffrey was removed from his position of power. At first, he was so angry for what Joffrey and his mother did to me. But I told him about you and how your arrival changed everything. Instead of being a prisoner, I was a guest, and protected from the horrors Joffrey would have wished to unleash upon me. Robb calmed down after that, and I told him you were everything a king should be when ruling, replied Sansa while Naruto blushed a bit at her praise, but managed to keep it down. Well, I don't know about that. Make no mistake, my dear, I have done horrible things in my time before becoming king. I have killed people. Lots of people. I may come off as a good man now, but that is the part you have seen since my arrival. If you saw how I have fought others during my time in Essos and even when I saved your brother at the Red Wedding, you would think differently of me, said Naruto while Sansa shook her head in disbelief. If you were a bad person, I would not be allowed to walk around freely without fear of being violated in some manner by yourself, or possibly one of your men. If you were a bad person, my brother would be dead, and the North would be torn apart fighting House Bolton. I know what knights do in war, and the fighting you do is different from all the stories told about them. I understand that the stories about fighting in a war and the very experience one has in an actual war are two different things. Stories often talk of knights fighting and dying for the glory and honor of their house or king when in a battle. They don't tell you how these knights brutally kill people, raping women, and the butchering of children, said Sansa while she frowned at the horrible darkness behind those stories she was told as a child. Yes. I'm afraid those words are quite true, Lady Sansa. Such grand stories always portray knights and lords in a positive light while hiding the dark deeds we have committed during the fighting. Otherwise, a child growing up wouldn't want to become a knight in the first place. The horror of it all would no doubt frighten them. At least those without the darker violent tendencies we usually see in people would be in any case, said Naruto while sighing. Your Grace, if I may ask, would it be okay if I were to return to King's Landing in the near future, asked Sansa while Naruto frowned. I would have thought after everything you had been through, being in King's Landing, much less returning to it anytime soon would be the last thing on your mind, asked Naruto since he knew Sansa would return to the north with her brother after this, but he honestly didn't expect the young woman to come back here after the horrors she suffered. Losing her father. Being tortured by Joffrey. Stark bannermen and servants, some who she had known since childhood being butchered, and their heads on pikes on the bastard's command. Anyone else would wish to stay the 7 hells away from King's Landing, but Sansa wanted to come back at a later time after returning to the north. That was when everything was horrible. Before, when Joffrey ruled, I was miserable and suffered under his cruelty. Even when I first came here to King's Landing, when your father was still alive, this place had a darkness to it. Whether it was some of the people or the overall city, I don't know. But the place felt like it was covered in a dark cloak or a slime that you couldn't clean off no matter how hard you tried. I think my father saw it too, which was why he tried so hard to help your father rule the 7 kingdoms when he became Hand of the King. When Joffrey ruled, the darkness got even stronger, and it was suffocating to say the least. But when you came along, the darkness retreated, and those that thrived in its presence were killed after you became king, said Sansa while Naruto smirked. She's not wrong. There is a darkness in this city. I sense it lurking in the shadows. Ever since I became king, cleaned up the city, and killed off its supporters, it has weakened. I'll have to investigate this on my own time, but I sense this vile thing has helped greatly in making King's Landing deteriorate, thought Naruto while refocusing on Sansa. I want to come back to King's Landing and help in some way keep things the way they are now. I know most women my age spends their days preparing themselves for the day they wed, which involves knowing how to be good wife that cooks, cleans, and prepares for the day of giving birth to her husband's children. But I'm not ready for that. Not yet, said Sansa while she bit back the blush on her face at the idea of being Naruto's future husband and the image of giving a small army of children. Well, I know Lady Marjorie wishes to do the same while here in King's Landing. The war produced countless orphans and many refugees who all came here to escape it. The refugees will return home or what's left of their homes. But the children are another story altogether. If left to their own devices, they will become thieves, criminals, and some would dare to commit murder if desperate enough when older. I have to nip this in the bud while I have the chance to protect the next generation from themselves, said Naruto while knowing the children would be the first to suffer when winter comes. That and the elderly. Such a project would require more than one person to run such a large project. Even if Lady Marjorie were in charge of it, she would need others to assist her, or possibly share in the burden of running the many orphanages needed right now. One person cannot do it all, said Sansa while Naruto smirked since he had an idea what the woman was hinting at right now. Clever girl. How right you are, my dear. Marjorie is only one person. Same as you and I. Let us all meet later on this week, before you depart for the north. We can share ideas and concepts on what to do with this project and to run it properly for when the long winter comes, said Naruto while Sansa smiled in appreciation. Sandor Clegane just kept smiling at the two while wondering if the king was oblivious in regards to the Stark girl's desire for him. Maybe he did know, but was just being faithful to his possible wife, to be in the Tyrell woman. Both were beautiful in their own way and had much to offer any man they courted. The Hound quietly wondered just who the king would choose to be his queen. So many choices these days were suddenly popping up. The Tyrells were making their move, the Stark girl, and it seemed House Martell might try to stake their claim with their small army of daughters, both legitimate and bastards. Or maybe he was thinking too much into it. A Clegane who thinks outside of fighting and killing was a strange thing and possibly a more dangerous adversary. Red keep the royal courtyard. Naruto watched as the prisoners were marched out in chains. Some were starved and a bit thin from being denied food for so long. they were shadows of their former selves. Not just in mind, but in body, and in spirit from what they could have been. His eyes showed him the decaying of their souls, another so-called gift from the Shinigami, to show him the horrors of what it meant to be human, and not get too attached to his fellow man. But Naruto didn't use it to keep his distance. No. He used it to fight the horrors that had plagued this world and the people themselves who were corrupted by it. Off to the side, Naruto saw Robb Stark and his bannermen watching things with a great deal of focus when the soon-to-be executed were brought out. House Lannister was on the other side, watching from their side with a great deal of intent, and with Tywin Lannister watching in a usual cold manner befitting a man of his reputation. Beside Tywin was his brother Kevan Lannister, who had a still restrained Lancel Lannister standing beside him, and making the younger man watch. Near them was Jaime Lannister, in chains, and like his cousin Lancel was being forced to watch these proceedings. It was another form of punishment, one Tywin insisted upon to teach his eldest son a lesson in committing such sinful acts that shamed one's own house. One by one, the prisoners were forced to their knees. Some, like the mountain, tried to fight back, but days with little food and water had weakened the giant of a man to the point where even his infamous strength-induced rage could not free him. Beside the mountain was Amory Lorch, who was gagged since the man would talk like a squealing pig begging to be freed in exchange for some manner of service. Near them, Cersei was forced to her knees, and her son Joffrey in the same position with the boy's mouth gagged after his constant yelling about putting their heads on pikes had become too much to deal with. Both looked slightly malnourished from their time in the black cells, which was to be expected given they had both been prisoners, if only for a short time. As she was forced to her knees, Cersei was glaring at the king who was her son with hatred before turning those eyes toward her father for this act of betrayal. Her own son chose to be a noble king who ruled over all and was loved instead of feared by the people. Her father chose to let that stand and support his grandson in his endeavors rather than remove said grandson from the Iron Throne to put Joffrey there instead. In Cersei's madness-consumed mind, Joffrey was the ideal king. He ruled with fear. He ruled with a harshness that made others think twice about challenging him. Of course, the best thing about Joffrey ruling was her ability to influence him thanks to being his loving mother. The boy hated everyone and everything around him while believing everything was his by right to destroy whenever it struck his fancy. She of course would ensure he kept only the more pleasurable or useful things from being destroyed and control her pure Lannister son from the shadows. The woman he one day married, much to her personal annoyance, would have been someone Cersei could control as well, and ensure the new queen had little to no authority unless approved of by the queen regent herself. That was her dream. That was her vision. It would have all come to pass had her firstborn son not lived past his birth. She still didn't understand how that happened. Maggie the Frog had told her she would only have 3 children, each one with blonde hair, and each one would die before her. Was the witch wrong? Was her skills in seeing the future a fake? A sham? No. It couldn't be faked. Cersei recalled how the witch had foretold she would marry a king over the prince, which became true when she married King Robert Baratheon instead of Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. The witch had foretold the number of children Robert would have, which was around 20 while she had a mere 3. How her children would have golden hair and how gold would be their shrouds. And how her little brother would be the one to end Cersei with his hands wrapped around her throat. Yet only half of what the witch foretold came true. Barely half. The numbers were wrong in terms of children, if only by 1. And so far only her son Joffrey was about to die with the woman herself dying right after him. From what she learned despite being in the black cells, Tommen and Myrcella were alive and well. Myrcella was in Dorne with her future husband and Prince of Dorne. Tommen was here in King's Landing with Tyrion being the boy's ward. At the thought of her little brother, Cersei's eyes narrowed, and focused on the man of such short physical stature currently standing beside the king with his hand of the king pendant pinned proudly on his chest. Tyrion. The little monster. Oh, how she loathed him. Hated him. She wanted to have the deformed bastard killed since he was a baby after learning Tyrion had been responsible for killing their mother. Cersei loved her mother. She was a caring, loving woman who knew her duty as a Lannister, and was the only woman Tywin Lannister could say he had ever loved without question. She had brought joy to Tywin's life from what Cersei could remember of them when she was a young girl and wished to be just as joyful with her husband when the time came. Then Tyrion was born and everything changed for Cersei. Her father became cold. Never smiling. Always demanding. Jaime had tried to please their father. Get him smiling again like their mother always did, but nothing worked. Cersei contemplated the idea of killing Tyrion when he was a baby and getting her father's approval that way, but Jaime had caught on to that train of thought, and reminded her that even a Lannister could not be beyond kinslaying. Cersei had argued that Tyrion had killed their mother, was already a kinslayer, and should be punished for it. Jaime disagreed since Tyrion was an infant at the time and didn't do it on purpose. What Cersei didn't know was Jaime, in a rare form of intellect for one so young at the time, had actually consulted the Maester about this issue, and asked if women died in bringing babies into the world. The Maester admitted as much to Jaime that even normal-looking born babies, without deformities, have been known to cause complications to women giving birth, and kill them in the process. Tyrion's physical deformity may have admittedly caused their mother to die, but it wasn't done on purpose, and therefore Jaime did not wish his little brother any ill will. I never thought I would be standing here watching this happen. Well, not with Cersei on the chopping block at any rate, whispered Jaime to his father while glanced at him with a cold glare. It wouldn't have come to this if you had the sense not to do such things with your sister, and have 3 children as an end result, commented Tywin with Jaime scowling slightly at him in return. Please stop. Both of you. This is hard enough to deal with given our situation, but we should be grateful the king was merciful enough to give us such a merciful deal. It would be unwise to be disrespectful at this point, whispered Kevan to his brother and nephew. Agreed, said Tyrion while he was glad his brother wasn't among those being put to the sword. And being hand of the king gave him leeway with the current king to visit Jaime either at Casterly Rock or at the Wall when his brother took the black. Cersei Lannister, Joffrey Waters, Rhaegar the Mountain Clegane, Armory Lorch, Theon Greyjoy, and all other guilty parties here standing before me have been charged with crimes against the crown. Ordinarily, a trial of some sort would be convened to determine your fate, but this case is not ordinary. We have undisputed evidence of each of you being guilty of crimes that to put you on trial would be a formality at best and joke at worst. You are all guilty of against the crown. Crimes against House Baratheon. Crimes against House Stark. Crimes against House Lannister. Crimes against House Tully. Crimes against House Martell. And above all else, crimes against the people of the 7 kingdoms. Do you have anything to say before you meet the old gods and the new? Asked Naruto while he saw Cersei's eyes were filled with rage and Joffrey following with that madness-filled eyes aimed directly at him. I curse you. I curse the day you were born. I curse you for being my son. I curse you for taking away everything I worked hard to keep. I curse you for taking away everything from me that is mine. The only regret I have outside of not outliving you is traveling to Essos all those years ago, and personally ensuring you were made into one of the damn unsullied of Astapor, exclaimed Cersei while glaring at her son. Considering how things could have turned out, I will take that as your compliment of my mother, said Naruto sarcastically before focusing on his clearly insane half-brother. You are no king. I am king. The only king. You don't know what it means to rule. I do, exclaimed Joffrey since he believed his older brother didn't know how to rule over others as king. In Joffrey's mind, being the king meant you could do whatever you wanted. The boy had seen his father Robert Baratheon do whatever he wanted. Robert would drink, hunt, and whore whenever the mood caught his fancy. Did anyone stop him? No. Did anyone have the authority to stop him? No. So why shouldn't Joffrey himself be allowed to do whatever he wanted as king? All things were beneath him. People, buildings, and just about everything in the 7 kingdoms was his playground. To Joffrey, the position of power was meant to be ruled by those who would use it for personal gain because it was his right by royal blood, and no one had the power to change that. Really? During your time as king, the city was in decay, the people you tormented hated you, almost rebelled against you, and if I recall from what Uncle Tyrion told me, at one point they literally threw shit at you. Not much of a king if his subjects don't like how he rules from the Iron Throne, commented Naruto with Joffrey snarling. A king can do whatever he wishes. If I wish to torment them, I will do so, and no one can stop me, countered Joffrey while Naruto laughed. If that were true, brother, you wouldn't be here on your knees, and about to become a head shorter in height, said Naruto before he walked away from his family while Robb Stark, Sandor Clegane, Prince Oberyn, and several dozen Kingsguard got into position. You should have known better than to cross the north, false prince. We remember all the slights against us. We do not forget and we do not forgive, said Robb Stark before he brought his sword down on Joffrey's neck and took the boy's head clean off its body. Cersei could only watch as her son died and didn't even have the strength at this point to scream in outrage or loss over the death of her son. She had tried everything up until now to get out of this situation. Cersei had attempted to bribe, threaten, and even seduce the men guarding her cell each day in the hopes one of them would falter under her schemes. Even calling on her father one final time to aid her in freeing herself, if not save Joffrey from the fate of death as the witch had foretold would happen. Sadly, her pleas and schemes to acquire freedom from the black cells had been a failure, with the end result lying on the ground next to her. Jaime flinched when he saw his, now not so secret, child be put to the sword by Robb Stark and wondered if the Seven were punishing him for his past actions. It was possible. The gods tended to make someone who came from nothing into something and someone with everything into nothing with a flick of their wrists. Was this them at work? Being in a relationship with Cersei, throwing the Stark boy out of the window, killing the Stark bannermen in King's Landing, and the betrayal of his oaths to the Mad King by killing said king. Okay. Maybe the last one could be excused given what the Mad King planned to do and wanted to do if he had the chance. Still, all the other sins Jaime committed seemed to be coming back around to knock his ass down. Don't look away, Jaime. This is your punishment for betraying your house with your actions and doing that with your sister. You will watch, commanded Tywin firmly. And Jaime watched. He watched as Robb Stark moved to stand next to Cersei. His sword stained in Joffrey's blood. Even now the red liquid seemed to glow in the sunlight, and it made the former queen look like the weapon itself was a plague. Jaime saw her look over at him. At their father. Pleading for one or both of them to step up. To do something about this, before it was too late. Jaime said or did nothing because he wasn't allowed to do either. Tywin didn't say or do anything because he didn't want to do anything. Cersei thought about looking at Tyrion for help. Being the hand of the king did make you the second most powerful person in the Seven Kingdoms outside of royalty. But in the end, Cersei crushed that idea almost as fast as she thought it, and refused to call on her deformed little brother for help. She still had her pride. What was left of it? She would not beg the monster who killed her mother to intervene now on her behalf. No. She would stick to her beliefs that Tyrion was and always will be a monster. A joke on House Lannister. And one did not ask monsters and jokes to aid you in your time of need. You have caused my family grief beyond measure, Cersei Lannister. The time has come to pay the price for your sins in full, said Robb while he readied his sword to bring it down on the woman's head. You don't know what I had to suffer through. What I did for my family. For myself. I am a Lannister and Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. You have no right to judge me. No one does. Not you. Not my so-called son. Not the crown. And not even the gods have the right to look down on me. I am superior to all of you, exclaimed Cersei with all the rage and madness her eyes could produce in this moment. No. You are not, replied Robb before he chopped off Cersei's head with one strike. By this point, Jaime almost fell to his knees, but only through sheer will, and the fact his father was there watching everything made him stay on his feet. Tyrion looked away at the sight, since it was unsettling to see a member of his house, a sibling no less, die like this manner. Even if it was necessary. One by one, each man in front of them was put to the sword. First was Gregor Clegane at the hands of Prince Oberyn, who looked at the mountain with a cold fury in those usually passionate eyes. This was not a man who spent his days in the fighting pits or been with countless women, and some cases men, in his bed. No. This was man set on avenging his sister and her beloved children for the horrible things that befell them years ago at the hand of this creature. The mountain of course had to be given extra chains for good measure to prevent him from fighting back and trying to escape. Or at least take some men down with him before the end came. In the end, all Gregor could do was snarl, and cursed the man who seconds later took his head off with a sword the Prince of Dorne picked out personally for this moment. He even coated the weapon in a poison from a vial he had on hand for when such an unexpected event occurred. When such a thing would arise, it happened more often than not with him, before a fight. This way, the body of the mountain would become a deformed, mangled wreck, and ensured its decaying form would look even worse than it would normally. Armory Lorch soon followed by the all-too-happy Sandor Clegane, who had a chance to spend some time with the infamous Red Viper of Dorne, and bonded over their shared hatred of the mountain. While Gregor Clegane had no shortage of enemies his past sins, it was interesting to see the scarred brother of the mountain, and the one of many sworn enemies of the mountain having a friendly conversation together over wine. It was a sight you wouldn't expect to see, but given how Gregor had burned his younger brother's face, and defiled several members of Prince Oberyn's family, bonds had been formed under stranger pretenses. It wasn't until the long line of executed individuals finally reached the end, with the last to die being one Theon Greyjoy, who would meet his end personally at the hands of Naruto himself. It was a favor Robb had asked of him in terms of dealing the killing blow to the man who once swore an oath of loyalty to the former king in the north. Naruto agreed, since breaking your oath, which Theon did, deserved nothing short of quick death, and the king of the Seven Kingdoms intended to do just that. The price of such treachery was indeed high. "Please your grace, show mercy. Let me live," begged Theon, with Naruto with his trusty sword, the Akatsuki, in hand. "You betrayed your sworn brother of the north. You had ample time and opportunity to warn Robb Stark of your father's plans. Did you warn him? No. You chose to forsake a surrogate family, which treated you better than the one by blood. It was a poor trade-off. Since Robb took the heads of my mother and half-brother, it was decided that I would take your head off to further complete the circle." "Goodbye, Theon Greyjoy," said Naruto before he brought his sword down on the man's head and took it off in one clean slice. It was done. No more enemies. No more war. Through the deaths of these people without their heads, peace had been purchased. It is done. "Justice is served," said Robb Stark, while Naruto simply nodded. "And through their deaths, we have peace," said Naruto before he looked from Robb Stark to Tywin Lannister and saw the old lion nodding acceptance. "We leave tomorrow for Casterly Rock. I want you to find a suitable woman, marry her, and sire proper children this time. It shouldn't be too difficult, even for you," remarked Tywin while glancing at Jaime. "I wouldn't keep pressing the issue, father. I might just fail and you will have no choice but to accept Tyrion as your heir when I take the black," commented Jaime while Tywin glared harder. "Go back to your room before I really lose my patience," threatened Tywin before he saw Jaime give Tyrion a knowing look and was escorted away with the rest of the group from House Lannister. "He's not wrong, Lord Tywin. Tyrion would make a good heir to Casterly Rock. He has served me well as Hand of the King since I appointed him full-time," said Naruto with Tywin's scowl lessening, but was still there. "My eldest son commits incest with his now late twin sister. The other is a drunkard and sleeps with whores. Tyrion may have become Hand of the King since your time on the Iron Throne, your grace, but he has large boots to fill when it comes to his predecessors who shared that title," said Tywin while referencing to himself and Jon Arryn. Even Ned Stark, despite his short time as Hand of the King, was a man well respected, and many did not believe the falsity of the charges against him long before Naruto had voided the confession. "Uncle Tyrion has done well for himself since being appointed Hand of the King despite his vice's grandfather. His drinking has gone down and has not visited the brothels for quite some time. I think the problem regarding your sons is you spoiled one while you neglected the other. And the end result was what happened with Jaime and Tyrion doing what they did for most of their life. The fact you blame Tyrion for your wife's death does not help either, since you basically passed that hatred on to Cersei," said Naruto while seeing Tywin's scowl deepened. "Tyrion deprived you of ever knowing your grandmother," said Tywin while Naruto just shook his head. "And you think Tyrion doesn't feel anything? You got to know her as your wife. Cersei and Jaime knew her as mother. Tyrion can call her mother, but has no face to remember the woman by. You and Jaime do. Still do. Have you ever even tried to consider that your son suffers in a way you cannot begin to comprehend? At least you knew her. At least you have memories of her. At least you can recall the sound of her voice. What made her happy? What it was about her that made you happy? Tyrion has none of these things and is always reminded of his part in her death, coming into the world violently the way he did. Your hatred for him is pointless and unbefitting of a Lannister," said Naruto firmly while Tywin's scowl lessened again. "There is some merit in what you say. Still, Tyrion has yet to prove himself worthy of being my heir to Casterly Rock in case Jaime fails," said Tywin while Naruto sighs in frustration. "And people say the members of House Tully are stubborn. You truly have no idea what your youngest son is truly capable of. One day, you are going to regret not seeing your youngest son reach his full potential, or even realizing Tyrion has potential to be a great Lannister. I also fear that when the day comes, it will most likely be on your deathbed, said Naruto before walking away and leaving Tywin some time to think things over about what could have been if the old lion had spent more time with his youngest son. Frowning slightly at the king's words, a small seed of uncertainty planted itself within Tywin Lannister. It was almost crushed by the stubbornness of the old man, who was so set in his ways that he would sooner see the wall melt to let the wildlings run free over challenge his perceptions about Tyrion. But the seed survived. It endured. It landed on the soil of the man's mind where Tywin's memory of his wife resided and how she used the last of her words to tell the man that Tyrion was indeed his child. Try as he might deny it given Tyrion's dwarfish stature, Tywin knew his wife well enough to know she wasn't lying to him. That she wouldn't lie to him. Tywin had always stressed the overall importance of one's house. Of one's own family. And yet, out of his entire closely blood-related family of House Lannister, Tyrion was considered the lowest. Some of the more open-minded Lannister had come to Tywin in secret, telling the old lion about how his youngest had a sharp mind, and should be nurtured to help reach his full potential. One knowing glare from Tywin Lannister always sent them running. But now he was wondering if those Lannisters had been right. Tyrion clearly spent his time reading, expanding his mind to make up for his physical deformity. No one could deny it. Not even Tywin himself. But the problem lay with his youngest being a dwarf while spending his days drinking, whoring, and spending gold as if it was infinite. Not truly befitting of a Lannister by any means. And yet, from all accounts from people he questioned, Tyrion was going exceedingly well as Hand of the King. Making sure reforms were done in various places where the previous king had let fall into decay. No one had seen Tyrion enter a brothel since being here in King's Landing, and only his hired help Bronn had gone there to collect the large sum of money owed the crown by taxation. Tywin suspected his son was in a relationship with a woman if that was the case, and thus staying away from the brothels. Meaning his son was in love again, but clearly not with someone meeting Tywin's standards as usual. Ordinarily, Tywin would interfere if that were true, but his son currently had the favor of the king, and was also the Hand of the King. Meaning even Tywin Lannister himself was not in a position or authority to challenge his son regarding who he was interested in. But even if he did, to intervene now would be seen as foolish, and make Tywin seem like an overbearing monster of sorts for a father. One many would say should stay out of the life his son, who he had neglected for most of his time alive. Many would no doubt say that Tywin had no business being in his youngest son's life now, not to mention interfere in regards to the woman Tyrion was with. People would start question his sanity. Deciding to handle this in a different way, Tywin walked toward his residence in the Red Keep with the intent of observing his son in subtle way, and finding out which woman had his interest, before deciding whether or not to make his feelings on the issue known. Chapter 10 Love Storm. Tyrion stared at his father, who sat in front of him with a desk meant for the Hand of the King to work from, being the only barrier between them. The old lion decided to glance around the room, ignoring his son for the decorum of the place since he was here last. So far, from what he could tell, nothing had been changed, or was out of place despite the multiple hands who once worked in here, himself included. Tywin was no stranger to this room since he had been Hand of the King years ago when the Mad King ruled the Seven Kingdoms. Out of all of the others' hands during the Mad King's time, he was the most successful, and the one to last the longest out of all of them. He had seen many things that few could stomach or tolerate as Hand of the King, which was why the death of the Targaryen royal bloodline was not truly missed by the people. Well, perhaps Prince Rhaegar would be missed to some degree, but not by much after what his actions helped cause. You keep yourself busy. I'm somewhat impressed, commented Tywin while his son offered him some wine and drank it. Being Hand of the King is a major responsibility. You told Jaime and myself that more than once when you had this position. Nothing has changed in that regard, said Tyrion while Tywin nodded, since the Hand did a lot and usually cleaned up the messes the king made. The old saying the king shits and the hand wipes came to mind. I'm actually more surprised you take your position seriously. I half expected to hear you were out drinking and spending time in the brothels instead of performing your duty as Hand. Yet you have proven to have done the opposite. Even when Joffrey ruled for a time, remarked Tywin while Tyrion gave a weak smile. As usual, you underestimate the potential of your youngest. Given how I have done so much for our house even before being named Hand of the King, I would at least think your opinion of me could have been somewhat higher, said Tyrion with Tywin's face showing a minor grimace. Your past performance in showing your potential up until recent events was the main reason behind my low expectations of you. You spent your days reading books, drinking wine, and whoring in brothels while spending the wealth of our house blindly, replied Tywin with Tyrion scowling. Considering how I was scorned for being a dwarf and considered the murderer of my own mother upon my birth, is it really such a surprise? Questioned Tyrion while Tywin paused for a moment. No. I suppose not. Still, you have proven yourself quite capable. Clearly what you lack in being physically normal you make up for with a sharp intellect. One worthy of our house. I suppose that was why I made you Hand of the King in my place while I was out fighting the North, said Tywin with Tyrion frowning. Are you sure? I always felt you did it so I would be close to Joffrey and the brat would unleash his sick cruel tendencies on me with his mother's backing, countered Tyrion in a somewhat harsh tone. The thought had crossed my mind, but you are a Lannister. A smart and clever one who knows how to play the game and knowing who to trust when needing help as I did when I was Hand, said Tywin while Tyrion nodded. I learned long ago that my physical form was a weakness. The only way to counter it was with a strong mind. Sadly, the strong mind cannot be seen by others unless events allow it to be seen, said Tyrion with Tywin nodding. Indeed. Which leads me to my next question, where is the woman who is keeping you away from the brothels, asked Tywin while Tyrion paused in his drinking from his wine cup and looked at his father. What makes you think I have a woman in my life? Considering what you did to the last one, asked Tyrion with Tywin's face sporting a scowl that made many tremble in fear. Because I know you, Tyrion. You have inherited my keen intellect. Something Jaime did not. The only reason you aren't spending what time you are not working at brothels is because of a woman. Someone you have come to love and yet kept from me knowing I would most likely disapprove. Like I did last time, said Tywin with Tyrion grimacing, but still held ground. Say I did find someone to love? Someone who loves me back? Someone who loves me not for my gold or my position? But for me? All that I am? Are you going to do what you did last time? Asked Tyrion while Tywin simply looked back without giving anything away. That would depend on the woman you fell in love with, replied Tywin while Tyrion had a worried yet still angry look on his face. Even after all this time, you would punish me, and the woman I love when your other two children have done far worse? Questioned Tyrion while Tywin made a face that looked between anger and disgust. Jaime has already been punished for his crimes and will continue to be punished for them long after I am dead. Your sister has been punished by losing her head. Out of all of my children, you have done the least offending, but that does not mean you can simply lay with any woman who catches your fancy. You say this woman loves you? Not for your house's wealth or your position of power? Prove it. Let me see her and I will decide if she is a good fit for joining our house, replied Tywin with Tyrion frowning. Your expectations were near impossible for Jaime and impossible for me. Especially for me. You would never approve of any woman I fell in love with unless our house gained too much to ignore such a union, said Tyrion while Tywin scowled further. Which means the woman you are with now has nothing to offer you except sexual favors and her so-called love for you. I'm not impressed, said Tywin calmly, yet it was clear he was not pleased. At least the woman I am with isn't related to me? Or would you prefer I find one of my own female cousins of our house and have sexual relations with them? To be like Jaime and Cersei in siring incestuously born children, countered Tyrion while Tywin got even angrier. If you did that, I would gladly go to the wall after taking your head off myself. Still, I am finding it is impossible at this point to restrain you from being with such a woman. Given your position as Hand of the King and the King himself backing you should it be required, I am willing to let this issue slide. But only if I meet the woman in question first and see if she is indeed worthy of my youngest son, said Tywin while Tyrion scowled and for a moment both father and son looked very much alike. I want your word as a Lannister and for you to swear upon the grave of the woman you love who is my mother that you will cause the woman I love no harm, said Tyrion in all seriousness while Tywin grimaced for a second. I swear it. On our house and the grave of my late wife, who brought you screaming into this world. I will not harm this woman who apparently loves you. But, should I find her lacking in being worthy of courtship into our house, I will ask the king to remove this woman from the 7 kingdoms to ensure neither of you are together again. Ever, said Tywin while Tyrion's scowl became more serious to match his father. And should she meet your expectation, there will be no interference from you. If we get married, you will not object to our union. Ever, countered Tyrion while Tywin was both impressed and upset by his son's terms. You assume there is a chance this woman will meet my expectations, said Tywin while Tyrion looked more confident. If you are so sure she won't, then agree to my terms. Unless of course, the great Tywin Lannister is afraid of being wrong, challenged Tyrion while Tywin once more fumed over his son's words, and was once again impressed by his son's boldness. Have her meet me in the throne room with the king later before my entourage departs for Casterly Rock. I wish for his grace to be there to ensure everything between us is civil, said Tywin while Tyrion nodded and watched his father leave the room before letting out a tired sigh. Tyrion knew Shae was perfect for him. He knew it. Shae knew it. The king knew it. But Tywin Lannister, he might know it, yet still refused to acknowledge the truth. At least until the truth smacked him in the face. Red Keep Small Council Room. Daenerys Targaryen has taken over the city of Meereen, questioned Naruto while the Master of Whispers Varys nodded. Yes, your grace. All without losing a single soldier. Her plan was utterly brilliant. She brought hope to the slaves and the means to free them from the wise masters. Once the slaves were armed with swords and freed of their chains, they descended on their owners with fury, and killed the vast majority of them. Those they spared were those well known for being good to their slaves to some degree and were spared their wrath, along with the wrath of Daenerys Targaryen. Already she has been called the Dragon Queen and ruler of the city of Meereen with roughly 8,000 unsullied and 2,000 members of the Second Sons under her command. Not to mention what is left of the Khalasar who followed her from the start, said Varys while Naruto frowned. You and I both saw the Unsullied in action, your grace. They are quite impressive and loyal to those they serve, added Prince Oberyn, who had been made an advisor and part of the small council. The Prince of Dorne was also given authority to run all the brothels within the city and keep these establishments properly maintained while respectable. Happy clients were good, but Naruto made it clear unruly clients who abused the women, or men if the clients were secretly into that sort of thing, would not be tolerated at these brothels. Naturally, Prince Oberyn accepted this of course, and was even allowed to have a nice respectful sum of money made from the brothels become a form of additional income for Dorne. Not to mention Prince Oberyn got to enjoy the fruits of his labor in terms of managing brothels' supply of whores. Indeed. These Unsullied under her command are even more loyal given they fight for Daenerys Targaryen as free men. Freeing slaves from their chains would give her quite the beloved and fanatical power base among the populace, added Naruto while sighing at this latest predicament. There is also word of her 3 dragons growing larger and stronger with each passing day. They are already well beyond the size of a horse, and from what I have been told they do breathe fire, said Varys while Naruto grimaced. It's hard to imagine dragons being alive again. I never thought I would live to see it, much less hear about it, said Ser Davos Seaworth, though it was more to himself. This Daenerys Targaryen could be a threat to your rule over Westeros, your grace. She is the daughter of the Mad King and has claimed to the Iron Throne as the only living royal member left of their house. With an army behind her, she could move to challenge you for the crown, said Mace Tyrell with a hint of concern in his voice. And given who my father was, I doubt she will be civil should we clash, added Naruto with a grimace knowing his father killed her brother Rhaegar Targaryen at the Trident. Not to mention Uncle Jaime killing the Mad King and his grandfather Tywin Lannister betraying said Mad King following the prince's death. For the moment, any plans to invade Westeros are still a time away. My birds tell me that the new Dragon Queen is most likely going to have her hands full with those who are displeased with the way Daenerys is running things. Mainly those who would thrive on the tradition in using slaves and those who make a profit out of selling them. Still, it will be difficult for any dissenters to get near Daenerys as she had Ser Jorah Mormont and Ser Barristan to advise her. Both are well-seasoned veterans who have been invaluable to her since they came into her service. In fact, Jorah Mormont was spying on her for us at one point in exchange for a pardon. One we have delivered just before the late King Robert Baratheon died. However, I have been informed by my little birds that he has decided to stay at the Dragon Queen's side, and has continued to serve at her side as a key advisor, added Varys with Naruto grimacing. What Jorah Mormont does following his pardon is entirely his choice and one he no doubt considered before making his decision. I won't hold it against him. As for the issue with Ser Barristan, this was not entirely unexpected given his own history with House Targaryen. In truth, my half-brother Joffrey was an idiot to remove Ser Barristan from the Kingsguard. He could have been invaluable to us here. Now we have the most seasoned and most experienced swordsman in all the Seven Kingdoms serving as a chief advisor to Daenerys Targaryen herself. There are only a few in all of the Seven Kingdoms who can and would challenge a man like him, whether out of fear or respect for his skills. Are you absolutely certain that Daenerys isn't planning to invade us anytime soon, Varys? Said Naruto with Varys nodding. An army, a city, and people Daenerys Targaryen may have your grace. But a fleet of ships? She has none, answered Varys while Ser Davos scoffed. You are leaving out the words not yet in that sentence, Spider. Your grace, it is a well-known fact that this Targaryen woman needs ships to cross the narrow sea. While she may not have ships now, anyone can acquire ships by purchasing them, or having them constructed to suit one's needs. This woman is a queen of a city with a port. A port where ships can be made, enter, or exit to the seas to any destination her heart desires. If and when this Targaryen gets the fleet of ships she wants, I'd bet my remaining fingers on my right hand the army at her command will be on them, and they will sail straight for this city. If the story's about one dragon being worth an army, 3 dragons can decimate most if not all of the other 7 kingdoms, and the rest of the army she possesses can be used to keep the other major houses from all the other kingdoms in line, remarked Ser Davos since he had been to enough strategy and war meetings with Stannis to learn a thing or two about fighting. She is not wrong, your grace. If we are to handle Daenerys Targaryen, now is the time, said Varys while Naruto thinking things over in his mind. I don't disagree, Varys, but the question on how to handle her is the issue here. My father tried to have her assassinated long before she was considered a threat. That was a mistake on his part. The action made our now Dragon Queen aware that we knew of her existence and considered said existence to be a threat. Now she has an army, 3 dragons, and a justifiable reason to use them against us should she wish it. Another attempt will not only fail miserably given her sharp-minded advisors, who will spot the assassins easily. Not to mention the act will only motivate the Dragon Queen to speed up any plan she has to invade Westeros, explained Naruto, since attempting to assassinate Daenerys was stupid from the first attempt and it would be stupid now. What do you propose, your grace? Asked Ser Davos while Naruto was thinking things over in his head. We need to open a dialogue with Daenerys Targaryen. Communication and diplomacy is the means to keep Westeros out of another senseless war. Varys, can your birds get into Meereen? To deliver a message to Daenerys herself, asked Naruto with Varys nodding. I believe they could, your grace, said Varys while Naruto nodded. Not to put such an idea into question, but, are we sure this is the best choice here? I do not want another senseless war, but isn't communication with a future enemy just as bad as attempting to assassinate her? Asked Tyrion, since he felt communication at this point with the Dragon Queen would only make her focus on Westeros more in the long run. Perhaps. But the fact remains, Tyrion, we have a chance to speak to the woman before the threat of a war can possibly break out. We can gauge her intentions now over later should she attack without us knowing. Varys, you will get a message out to Daenerys Targaryen for me. We will find out what she says back, if there is a response, and keep an eye on her actions to see if the words written in response match her actions. If we can make an ally of the Dragon Queen now, it would be considerably better over making her an enemy in the future. The last thing we want is to have 3 fire-breathing dragons flying over King's Landing in Westeros with them burning everything to the ground, said Naruto while the other members of the small council nodded, since none of them wanted 3 fire-breathing dragons descending upon the 7 kingdoms with the purpose of burning half of it to the ground just to keep the other half in line. There is still the issue of the Vale, your grace. I'm afraid Lady Lisa has been threatening to have her kingdom break away from the crown and making her son the newly crowned king of the Vale. I believe she has done this due to the fact you executed Peter Baelish after the Battle of Blackwater Bay and the fact no one has killed you just yet to take your place, said Varys while Naruto sighed. Everyone wants to be a king these days. I didn't think my late father made quite the lasting impression, much less a positive one when he ruled, commented Naruto with the men in the room laughing. While true, your grace, this issue with the Vale has caused lingering problems that need to be addressed before Lady Lisa can influence her son to embrace the idea of breaking the Vale off from the crown, said Varys with Naruto nodding. Sadly, yes. What do the Lords of the Vale say on this matter? Asked Naruto, knowing the overall support of the Lords of the Vale for this crazed idea would determine whether it succeeded or not. They are divided, your grace. On one hand, they feel they should obey their young lord, but the others feel it is wrong to break away from the crown. Especially given how Lady Lisa wishes her son to do it over the fact Petyr Baelish was executed despite his long list of crimes warranting it, said Varys while Naruto sighed. Even in death, the man is a pain in the ass, said Naruto while knowing this was Petyr Baelish's fault from start to finish. And they weren't even finished yet. What do you intend to do about the Vale, your grace? Not to down my own house or its bannermen, but the Vale is said to have some of the finest soldiers and knights in all of Westeros. Not to mention the terrain to get around the Bloody Gate makes invasion by land next to impossible, said Mace Tyrell with Naruto nodding since it was true. Tyrion, when you last saw Lady Lisa Arryn of the Vale, was she of sound mind? Asked Naruto while Tyrion shook his head no. On the contrary. She was the exact opposite, your grace. The woman had a crazed look in her eyes. And even had the nerve to accuse me of killing her husband of all things when I did nothing of the sort, answered Tyrion since his time in the Vale was one for his own personal memoirs when he had a chance to write them. If I may add something, your grace. Stannis's wife was not of sound mind either when last I saw her too. I think the madness she went through is similar to what Lady Lisa of the Vale has, but is also different due to circumstances that made them mad, said Ser Davos while knowing a thing or two about seeing people filled with madness and doing things when afflicted by it. It seems madness is spreading in wake of the peace achieved following the end of the war, commented Tyrion calmly though his words were grave all the same. So, it would appear. Though I think the madness was already infecting people before the war first broke out. We need to handle this with care, said Naruto while the others were nodding in agreement. We should handle the issue with Lady Lisa in the Vale first, your grace. Her side has the army necessary to be a threat to us should she successfully muster all the Knights of the Vale to march against the crown, said Mace Tyrell while knowing the Knights of the Vale could become a threat should they be unleashed on the Seven Kingdoms. Agreed Lord Tyrell. But it must be done in a way without bloodshed. A way where the lords and knights of the Vale do not rise up against the crown, nor have a reason to take up arms. We must look at this from a non-violent point of view, said Naruto with Tyrion laughing a bit. I'm sorry, your grace, but Baratheons and non-violence do not go well together in a single sentence, said Tyrion with Naruto smirking. Perhaps. But it's true all the same. If only, said Naruto, but paused in thought. Your grace, asked Oberyn since he saw that look before on Naruto in their younger years in the fighting pits. It was usually when the man was figuring a problem out or was damn loose to it. Who knew Jon Arryn back when he was young? Asked Naruto curiously. As of today? I believe Lady Olenna and Lord Tywin knew him during his younger years, your grace. But why do you ask? Questioned Varys with Naruto frowning. I think there is more to Lady Lisa's not-so-secret love for the late Lord Baelish. And I also suspect that the boy Lisa Arryn gave birth to is not Jon's child. In fact, I suspect the boy is Littlefinger's bastard, answered Naruto with many on the small council with the exception of Varys looking shocked by this accusation. That is a hefty accusation to make, your grace. Even for a king. Unless there is proof, I do not see how we can remove Lady Lisa or her son from the position of power within the Vale, said Mace Tyrell while Naruto nodded. And I don't make the accusation lightly. But I think the proof we need is in the form of young Robin and whether or not he even remotely looks like Jon Arryn in his younger years, said Naruto with the others nodding. It has been a while since I saw the boy myself, back when your father ruled the Seven Kingdoms, your grace. Still, I noticed as the boy grew, his features seemed to resemble a certain former master of coin. I suspect Lady Lisa and Littlefinger feared others noticing as well. Jon Arryn's death would give the boy's mother an excuse to flee King's Landing for the Vale and to keep the secret hidden from those who knew Jon Arryn in his youth, said Varys while Naruto nodded in agreement. Which is why I need to confirm what Jon looked like during his youth so I can compare his features to Robin. Please have Lord Tywin come into the small council chamber so we can speak with him, ordered Naruto while he saw one of the guards bow and seek out the Lord of Casterly Rock. What of the Red Woman at Dragonstone, your grace? Every day she lives, I fear for the Seven Kingdoms, said Ser Davos with worry. There is nothing we can do for the moment, Ser Davos. Believe me when I say there is nothing more than I would like to do right now than take her head off for what she has done. What she will no doubt do if allowed to continue. But if we strike now, it will make her a martyr to the religion this woman embraces. Her acolytes will spread far and wide with the intent of using her and the religion she believes in to covert more followers. All we can do for now is set up a blockade around Dragonstone to contain her enough to keep anyone from leaving the island, said Naruto with Ser Davos nodding since it was the only sound plan they had at the moment. And being the master of ships, it becomes my duty to ensure the blockade is successful, I take it, commented Ser Davos with Naruto nodding. Use your smuggling knowledge in reverse this time, Lord Seaworth. Continue to think like a smuggler, but use that knowledge on how to keep someone from getting in or out of the island. I'm leaving this situation in your hands with the royal fleet, said Naruto with Ser Davos nodding. She won't get past the fleet. Not if I have anything to say about it, said Ser Davos, since he had not intention of letting that woman escape and spread her vileness throughout the Seven Kingdoms. You called for me, your grace? Asked Tywin after the doors opened and the Lord of House Lannister entered. Yes, Lord Tywin. I need to speak with you regarding Jon Arryn, said Naruto before he explained everything to the man and his suspicions. Interesting. While I'm sure everyone else here agrees the accusation is a surprise, it does hold some weight if you know where to look in order to make them, said Tywin after he sat down next to his son after a chair was offered. Do you believe my accusations against Lady Arryn of the Vale holds any weight, Lord Tywin? Asked Naruto with Tywin thinking things over in his head. I knew Jon Arryn when I was a young man. It was before he had taken a young Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark as his wards in a foster-father-based relationship. I met him on several occasions, mostly during tourneys the king or his son Prince Rhaegar hosted. I would have to see Lysa's son for myself, but from what has been described of him, there is little chance he is Jon Arryn's son, said Tywin, knowing the stories of young Robin being breastfed by his mother long after it was natural had reached his ears through Tyrion. At first, Tywin thought Tyrion was joking, but the fact Bronn had confirmed it, and the boy was spoiled to laughable levels. Possibly to the point where the sellsword wouldn't be surprised if the child had someone else wipe his ass when required. Again, Tywin was unsure if such a thing was even possible, but Tyrion knew Catelyn Stark had seen just how much Lysa spoiled Robin. The fact Lysa still clung to her love for Littlefinger despite his death only strengthened the belief Robin was Peter Baelish's child. If the boy had been Jon's offspring, she would have fostered Robin off to just about anyone without a care. Even the Mountain himself, if she was feeling particularly heartless, and given how the woman loved the traitorous dead Peter Baelish, chances are she would have done just that. It is a shame we can't get the boy here away from his mother. We would know for sure if he was Jon's or Peter's child, remarked Tyrion while Naruto nodding. Sadly, Lady Lysa won't allow young Robin to go anywhere or do anything without her expressed permission. She spoils him too much and no doubt plans to use her influence over him to continue ruling over the Vale long after the boy comes of age, said Varys with Naruto grimacing. Not to mention she will ensure the woman he marries is a dim-witted girl who is easily controllable. Only the gods know how that will turn out when it comes time for Robin to lay with his wife, remarked Tyrion before he shuddered at the thought. A troubling thought to be sure. She's clearly unfit to rule during this time. If the Lords of the Vale were to agree that Lady Lysa is unfit to rule, would they appoint someone who would take over until Robin was old enough? Asked Naruto while looking over at Varys, since he was the most knowledgeable of all of them. Possibly, your grace. But simply asking them to consider it is not enough. You must give them some measure of proof to convince them what they are doing is right, said Varys with Naruto nodding. I can think of a reason. Lord Tyrell, please get me some parchment and a writing quill to write with. I think it's high time we used the knowledge of what happened to Jon Arryn to our advantage, said Naruto while Mace Tyrell nodding and got what the king asked of him. It was time the quill showed why, at certain times, it was mightier than the sword. The North Winterfell. My daughter. Thank the gods you were safe, said Catelyn while she hugged her eldest daughter and practically crying over the fact. I have King Naruto to thank for that, mother. He has done much for our house and for the Seven Kingdoms, said Sansa while she saw her mother's smile lessen slightly at the mention of the king. Yes, well, he is a much better king than Joffrey, said Catelyn while Sansa frowned at the mention of the bastard would-be prince. I would rather not speak of him. His very name makes me ill, said Sansa while the two women of Winterfell walked into the castle with Brienne of Tarth walking almost beside them. What do you wish to talk about? Asked Catelyn curiously. About the current king, actually. I was wondering if perhaps Robb could arrange for a marriage between myself and King Naruto, asked Sansa while Catelyn stopped and looked at her in shock. Marriage? I would have thought after what happened with the other one, you would be against such a thing. Not to mention the man is several years older than you, replied a concerned Catelyn Tully Stark while Sansa smiled slightly. I saw the bad side of people, mother. The people were rioting in the city when he was in power. They wanted him dead. You could practically taste the hatred in the air. But then Naruto came, killing those wicked among the city watch who were loyal to him. Naruto is a man worthy of being called king and one day will need a queen to help him not only rule the 7 kingdoms, but provide a suitable heir, said Sansa with Catelyn looking away from her. I don't know Sansa. I just got you back after this bloody war. The idea of you marrying the king, said Catelyn was hesitant to say more. You don't like the king in some way. Why? Asked Sansa curiously. He wants to legitimize your half-brother Jon up at the wall. The king wishes to make him a Stark, answered Catelyn though there was a bitterness in her voice. Really? Mother, that's wonderful news. Jon deserves it, said Sansa, but the bitterness in her mother's eyes told a different story. He is the proof your father broke his marriage vows to me during Robert's rebellion all those years ago. You may think legitimizing Jon is great news, but when your husband breaks his vows one day, whoring with woman after woman, and siring his own army of bastards like his father did before him, you won't be so happy, said Catelyn angrily. Mother! Father only broke his vow once, in a drunken state brought about by grief, and it was after his sister had died, said Sansa while Catelyn looked away again and knew her daughter was right. She still didn't like it. Bastards have no business being legitimized, Sansa. They are a stain on all that is good and pure. Joffrey himself was proof enough. The same with the bastards once brought about by Walder Frey and one who was considered a monster of House Bolton, said Catelyn while Sansa frowned further. If that were true, Jon himself would have been a monster like them. But he isn't one, mother. You may not care about Jon, but he is still family. Father wouldn't have taken him in if he didn't believe without question Jon was of his blood. You know that, said Sansa while Catelyn didn't answer right away. You will understand one day, Sansa. When your future husband decides to be unfaithful for even one day and results in a bastard being born, said Catelyn with a note finality in this discussion about Jon's legitimization. What is this about a future husband? Asked Robb after he came around the corridor with a smile on his face while walking with his clearly pregnant wife beside him. We will tell you in the main hall, said Catelyn while hoping to convince her son that having Sansa marry the king was a bad idea. Essos city of Meereen. Daenerys Targaryen sat on her throne while she read the parchment handed to her by Ser Barristan Semley and was surprised to see it was from the current king of Westeros. Ser Barristan confirmed it was in fact the symbol of House Baratheon and was expecting it to be the writing of King Joffrey. With his mother's influence no doubt, they half expected it to be a demand she return to Westeros alone, and face judgment for being the daughter of the Mad King, only to find themselves completely surprised by what the parchment said and who it was from. Greetings to you, Daenerys of House Targaryen. I wish this conversation could be face to face instead of in writing where the conversation between us is clearly one-sided. I have no intention of starting a conflict with you, and the fact my father tried to have you killed in the first place was a mistake. You were no threat to him and your crazy brother was even less of a threat to the 7 kingdoms. From what I heard leading up to his death, your brother was more of a danger to himself. I would say I am sorry for your loss, but I have been told by my master of whispers that your brother was consumed by madness just like his father. But I will digress and not speak ill of the dead. What I will speak of is an alliance between us. A chance to end the bad blood between my house and yours without the need for senseless violence and death. A chance to see a day where House Baratheon and House Targaryen are not sworn enemies with those loyal to our houses helping us kill each other. I personally have had enough of houses betraying each other and trying to advance themselves for greater power when they should know when to stop, which is why I want to prevent a war before it could possibly begin. I have heard of your exploits from my master of whispers. Freeing the Unsullied, launching one campaign after the next to free the slaves from each city you have taken. I not only applaud your success, but gaining the support of the people in each one. Like you, I despise slavery, and was powerless to stop it when I was in Essos before heading for King's Landing. I am glad to know someone has been able to succeed in such a task, but again, to why I am writing you here and now. As I mentioned, I wish to propose an alliance between us. One between the King of Westeros and the Dragon Queen of Essos where we can work together to make the realm of men a better place. With your help, I know we can succeed in making this world a better place when we leave over those who came before us. If there comes a time you wish to return to Westeros, I wish it to be on civil terms. I know by being the daughter of one of the previous kings of Westeros, you have a claim to the Iron Throne. I do not wish for us to fight over the horrible thing or the authority that comes with ruling over the 7 kingdoms. Enough people have died before and after wars were fought over it. Fortunately, I have taken measures to remove those who would profit from us fighting each other, but there are still threats to both of us in Westeros who still need to be dealt with. I await your response on whether you wish to be an ally. Sincerely, King Naruto of House Baratheon. Is this truly legitimate, Ser Barristan? Asked Daenerys with the old knight nodding. It is, your grace. Young Naruto was King Robert's firstborn, but something happened the night of his birth that made the king reject his son. I never knew the entire story of why King Robert dismissed his eldest son. What I do know is the boy was sent here to Essos during his childhood and was not seen again by anyone who knew of his existence. He must have returned shortly after I was discharged from the Kingsguard by his younger brother Joffrey, your grace. Alas, we do not have a spy network in Westeros, so knowing what has transpired there will be based mostly on rumors, said Ser Barristan while he saw his queen study the parchment carefully in her hands. It could be a trap. A means to bring Daenerys into a false sense of security, offered Ser Jorah, knowing such a scheme was not uncommon. This is simply a communication between 2 rulers, Ser Jorah. I don't have to leave for King's Landing like you believe this message implied. We will communicate with this son of the usurper first, before I even consider any form of alliance with him. At the same time, we need to create a spy network of our own in Westeros. If I am to know my future ally, I must first find out if he is really an enemy in secret, said Daenerys with the 2 Western knights nodding. Your captain from the Second Sons should be able to help in that regard, your grace. A man of his talents has clearly been to Westeros a few times and knows people who would provide us with information, said Ser Jorah, knowing Daario Naharis was a man of many talents and creating a spy network would be easy for him. I agree with Ser Jorah. Our sellsword captain was also part of the fighting pits here in Meereen, from what the man has told me in passing, your grace. Perhaps he has heard of Naruto Baratheon during his time here, offered Ser Barristan with Daenerys nodding. Send for him. I wish to know more about King Naruto and if he is every bit the fighter he claims to be in his message, said Daenerys while she considered how to handle this development on the other side of the narrow sea. Perhaps she could use this king to her advantage. A means to an end? Or perhaps, have him become something else to her? The Vale at the moment. What is the meaning of this? Demanded Lysa angrily after she was taken from her bed by the Knights of the Vale, who for all intensive purposes should be protecting her with their very lives. Not coming into her room and basically kidnapping the woman within her own castle and brought into the main room with the other lords of the Vale. Be quiet, Lady Lysa. As for the meaning of this action, you have been charged with the crime of treason against the crown, the Vale, and your late husband Jon Arryn, said Lord Royce coldly while he held up the parchment that was given to him by the maester, who got it from a raven that came from King's Landing. Written by the king himself. Treason? That's absurd. Who made these charges? The king? He is unfit to be king after what he did to Lord Baelish. You would take the word of that monster over me? Your late lord's wife, demanded Lysa angrily. The king has proof. He has the confession of the former Grand Maester Pycelle and the open confession made by Peter Baelish before the man's execution. The spider has also provided us with the means, motive, and the name of the poison used. The fact you still have an infatuation with the late Lord Baelish is also your undoing. If you truly wished justice done, you would denounce the man who conspired to kill your husband. Not weep for the man who helped orchestrate it, said Lord Royce while Lysa glared at him. I am the Lady of the Vale. My word is law here. If not mine, my son Robin's is law due to being Jon's heir. You must obey one of us, Lord Royce. You and the lords and knights of the Vale belong to us, exclaimed Lysa angrily with the madness showing in her eyes. Wrong. As of now, given your current mental state, and the fact you were so devoted to your husband's killer, we are questioning the overall parentage of young Robin, said Lord Royce while seeing Lysa's face go pale with fear. Fear for her son. Fear for the truth behind Robin's parentage being revealed to the lords and knights of the Vale. You dare! My son is the heir to the Vale. You have no grounds to challenge his right to rule. This is treason, exclaimed Lysa in a state of panic. Treason? You, who poisoned your husband at the behest of a lowly snake, would call this treason. You clearly still love the late Lord Baelish over that of your own husband, yet call our actions treasonous. You, who would make false accusations to hide your actions, and the actions of others in order to conceal your crimes. You, who would rather wage war with the crown, kill hundreds if not thousands of knights to avenge the death of a monster who deserved his death, if not worse, said Lord Royce while Lisa's eyes went from being filled with fear to anger and madness once again. Lord Baelish was a gift sent by the Seven. You have no right to judge him. None of you do. He was a man with vision. A man who was destined for greatness. Destined to be a future king with me as his queen. Yet some upstart has him killed out of fear of being surpassed. You are the monsters. Standing in his way. In the way of his greatness. You should all be hanged or thrown through the moon door for your treachery. Every single one of you, exclaimed Lisa while she was struggling against the iron grip of the two knights of the Vale holding her in place. More like a curse sent by the Seven. His crimes stretch as far from here to Essos to the Shadowlands and beyond. The fact you still deeply love such a monster after everything he has done is proof enough in our eyes. Take her away. Prepare Lady Lisa and her son Robin for transport to King's Landing, said Lord Royce while ignoring the protests from the irate woman as she was being carried off out of his sight. It had to happen, Lord Royce. The fact she held a torch for the dead snake of a man even now speaks louder than any confession given, said Lady Anya Waynwood while seeing Lisa Arryn being carried away. Agreed. Still, we were blind to the madness of Lady Lisa. It was staring right in front of us all this time and we ignored it. The way the woman looked at Lord Baelish when he first arrived here in the Vale. How she would denounce the king of the Seven Kingdoms for killing the man. The madness in her eyes when she accused Lord Tyrion Lannister of killing Jon Arryn. How she had her own son suckling on her breast at the age of 8 of all things. Disgusting. We have become slow and weak in our old age, my lady. We have become blinded by the truth of the world, I'm afraid. And what is worse, we did not even realize it until our sight on the issue was restored, remarked Lord Royce before letting out a sigh. We have all been blinded, Lord Royce. We are too old and the young are either blind to it just as we are or they choose to ignore the horrible truths around them. Some siding with our enemies for their own benefit. Whether it's money, glory, or titles that make them feel untouchable to others, replied Lady Waynwood before letting out her own sigh. Such a state the realm of men has been reduced to in our elderly twilight years. It is unbefitting of lords, ladies, and knights of the Vale, said Lord Royce with a hint of anger in his voice. If Lady Lisa's child is in fact Littlefinger's offspring, what will become of him? Asked Anya curiously since she knew Lord Royce would have the most senior authority here. If he is proven to be Littlefinger's child, Robin will be a bastard. As the way things are, he will most likely have to take the black. Such a spoiled child has no business being a lord of the Vale. Much less a bastard of Littlefinger's blood, answered Lord Royce with a sense of finality to it. The wall at the moment. Is this legitimate? Asked Sam Tarly while Jon had given him a parchment to read that he had just gotten from a raven sent by his half-brother Robb at Winterfell. For some time, Jon had a hard time being on the wall. His late father, Ned Stark, had not told him what the wall was like these days prior to coming here. Everyone said it was a great honor to serve on the wall. To keep wildlings from getting over and causing untold horror on the small folk. When Jon was planning to go there, it was the only time he had seen Catelyn Tully Stark smile, knowing the boy she hated since being brought to the north was going to be away from her family at Winterfell. She never did warm up to him no matter what he did to prove himself. What was worse is the wall was filled with the lowest scum the Seven Kingdoms had ever produced. Murderers. Thieves. Rapists. Child molesters. And others vile people who were morally lacking in all things honorable like himself. Those who took their vows to become members of the Night's Watch who were honorable were too few and too old to truly enforce the wall's stricter rules. The only real reason they were enforceable was because if the vows were broken, you were a wanted man, and were hunted not only by the Night's Watch, but all of Westeros. Sure, you could probably escape to Essos if truly desperate, but there were no guarantee agents from Westeros wouldn't catch up and kill you outright. As for Jon, he had taken his vows, pledged himself to the Night's Watch, and was put as the steward of the now late Lord Commander Jeor Mormont. The man had been killed when over at Craster's Keep by his own men, who had not wanted to be members of the Night's Watch, but had to or else be put to the sword. only for a moment of opportunity to present itself where several of those men turned on the Lord Commander and those loyal to him. Now those same men who killed the Lord Commander were at Craster's Keep, eating the food, drinking wine, and raping the women there to satisfy their urges. In their minds, they were free of their obligations to the Night's Watch, and no one was going to come after them to enforce the rules or vows that were supposed to keep these men in check. They were no better than the wildlings. Jon had vowed to make them pay after he had recovered from his wounds given to him by the wildling girl Ygritte. He had been very fond of her. Even loved her. Jon had to kill a fellow brother of the Night's Watch to convince the wildlings around him that he was one of them. It had gone so far that Jon had slept with Ygritte, who teased him half the time, and tempted him every other time. For Jon, he knew there was possibly no going back after sleeping with the woman, who had invaded his mind with pleasure, and even love to some extent. It was like she was fire that threatened to consume him, burn away his very soul. Yet he endured, stayed near that fire, let it in close, and basked in the warmth this woman was creating. Sadly, it was he who was burned by the touch of this woman, but the woman herself when fleeing from the group of wildlings sent to flank the Night's Watch during Mance Rayder's planned night attack on Castle Black. She had tried to kill him, as it was clear as day given the 3 arrows in his back, and each one on a vital spot that hurt when each arrow was pulled out. It was to his shock and horror that he learned of the Lord Commander dying and a new one would have to be nominated in a vote by all his fellow brothers available at Castle Black. Though Jon had a feeling not all of them would call him a brother and would want to see Jon dead for what he did to get here. Yes, it is Sam. My brother Robb just sent me this message only a few days ago. It's papers saying, I have been officially legitimized as a Stark. That by upon reading this message, I am no longer Jon Snow, but Jon Stark of House Stark, exclaimed Jon with his eyes wide and a smile on his face. Congratulations! I know you wanted this for a long time, since we've known each other. I can't imagine how good it must be to finally join your family in name, said Sam while he saw Jon smiling further at the additional part of the message declaring Ned Stark clear of all charges of treason against the crown. It was something I have wanted since I understood what it meant to be a bastard. I tried so hard to please my family, my father, and prove myself in being a member of House Stark. My father's wife wouldn't allow it. She hated me from day one and continued to dislike me long after I was full grown. I tried to show her I wasn't a bad person, but I never could get through to the woman, said Jon with a sigh coming from his mouth. With all due respect, Jon, I don't think any woman would accept their husband's bastard into their house. I'm not saying she was wrong to scorn you since your birth, but look at it from her point of view. Here she is, married to High Lord like your father, only to find out he broke his marriage vows and had a child with a woman not her. A woman scorned is not something you want targeting you, my friend, said Sam with a small smile. But I do have a woman's scorn aimed at me, Sam. The wildling girl I mentioned to you earlier? She is part of the group seeking to attack Castle Black from behind while the rest of us deal with Mance Rayder at the wall. I need to get a message to Robb to get some men to patrol behind us for a large wildling attack party. If we can stop the attack aimed at our backs, we might have a better chance of handling the one at our front, said Jon while Sam was nodding in agreement. Since you are his official brother and a member of House Stark, it shouldn't be too hard to convince him, said Sam while Jon nodded. Alliser Thorne wants me dead. You can see it in his eyes, commented Jon seriously since he knew the man could use this fight to secretly kill him and say a wildling did it. I know. Everyone can see it. But he needs everyone here alive to defend Castle Black. Without us, without you, he won't have the means to fight off the wildlings. Like it or not, Alliser Thorne needs you, Jon. Stark or Snow, he needs you to help repel this attack, said Sam while Jon nodded in agreement. How do you think he will react when words get out, I was legitimized as a Stark and the charges against father were cleared, asked Jon with Sam laughing. I imagine he will be furious at the news. Not only at you, but at the current king who made it happen, offered Sam Tarly with Jon laughing now. One can only hope, Sam, commented Jon with a grin on his face. Is it true you laid with a wildling girl? Asked Sam curiously since he heard the rumors about his friend. Yeah. I did. I had to, Sam. They wouldn't have believed I was one of them if I didn't, answered Jon with his smile leaving him. I don't think you have to worry about being punished for that. If she were carrying your child, you would be dead. But the laws of the Night's Watch only say you are punished for having a child after taking your vows. It doesn't say anything about not being with a woman. Only you just can't have a baby with her, said Sam, since he studied the laws and rules the Night's Watch had for all of their members. I don't think Alliser will see it that way. If it were some whore in a brothel, I might just get a yelling or reprimand. But a wildling girl? I might as well have put a noose over my neck with that confession to the others, said Jon sadly. You had to do it, Jon. Like you said, it was either that or the wildlings would have killed you on the spot. And it's not like you didn't gain something from it. You know what this Mance Rayder is planning. All we have to do is make a plan to counter his plan before the fighting starts, said Sam while Jon sighed. It's not that simple, Sam. No one among my brothers here at the Night's Watch will even believe my story or what Mance Rayder has planned. They would sooner send me away or die to the last man. All in some glorious battle where the people write songs and tell stories about their bravery. They stay ignorant of the truth or choose to ignore it in some belief an entire army of wildlings can never get over the wall or even take the wall from them. The fact they would do nothing but let the wildlings come to face them is an insult to those like the late Lord Commander. If he were alive, we wouldn't be having this damn discussion, said Jon with anger in his eyes and in his tone of voice. Let's focus on a plan, Jon. We may not be able to implement it yet, but we can at least make one up. The wildlings are going to attack from two sides. We know that much after you came here dressed in their clothing and had several arrows in your back when you escaped. Contact your brother Robb in Winterfell. You can use one of the ravens Maester Aemon has on hand to send out emergency messages. We need help repelling this attack whether Alliser approves of it or not, said Sam while Jon nodded. I know, Sam. I know. I just need to make it to his room and ask for his permission. It won't be easy with everyone disliking me for what I did, said Jon, who felt he had a big fat target on his back now by most of his brothers. The man could almost imagine them stabbing him in the back when he least expected it. I'll walk you there. It's the least I can do. If I go with you, it will seem like it's important business only a maester can help you solve, said Sam, knowing if Jon goes out there, it won't be pleasant. Thanks, Sam. Sorry I put you in this situation, said Jon while Sam laughed. It's all right, Jon. Besides, my life wasn't that great before I came here. Nor would it have been if you didn't step up to help me out when I was fumbling around the place like I was some drunk coming out of a bar. Everyone else would have done the opposite of what you did and left me to stumble until I got myself killed. I owe you too much to turn you away. And besides, you make my life at the wall more interesting. I learned more from you in the first few days than I did from anyone else in the last month, outside of Maester Aemon, of course, said Sam, as he had become the steward of the old maester, who, like the late Lord Commander with Jon, had seen the young Tarly as his successor, and was being groomed for the position. All the same, be on your guard when I'm not around. Something tells me you could be targeted simply for supporting me, said Jon while Sam nodded. I always keep my eyes open and sleep lightly. It is one of the things I learned how to do here. If I wasn't such a disappointment to my father, he would almost be proud of me for having such a skill, Sam semi-joked before he escorted Jon to Maester Aemon's office. King's Landing Small Council Chambers. Lady Lisa is on her way here, Your Grace. Along with young Robin. A large contingent of Vale Knights is ensuring they make it here alive and in one piece are their escort, said Varys, knowing the hill tribes of the Vale required a large escort. Good. One less problem to deal with. The question now is, who do we entrust to help make a determination if Robin is Littlefinger's child or not? We need a skilled maester who is essentially an expert in understanding the ways of the human body, said Naruto with the others nodding, since only an expert maester could truly make such a decision official. They dare not use Pycelle again. Besides, the old man looked ready to meet the Seven at this point from the way his health was showing a decline. I believe I know someone, Your Grace. He came with my father to King's Landing after the mountain and my siblings were detained. I spoke with him when I heard of a very suspicious man going around asking questions about the city. I thought he might be a spy of some kind and had Bronn bring him to me at the Tower of the Hand. As it turns out, he is a former maester but was kicked out of the citadel for his unusual experiments, said Tyrion with Naruto focusing on him. Unusual experiments? Asked Naruto with Tyrion nodding. Yes. He is fascinated by the human body and its potential to go beyond what we believe to be our limitations. Both mental and physical, said Tyrion while having met the man, who was also interested in the dwarf of House Lannister. The name of this individual? Asked Naruto curiously. Qyburn, I believe is his name, said Tyrion while Naruto seemed intrigued. Your Grace, not to overstep my bounds, but if this man has been cast out by the Citadel by the Archmasters, there must be a good reason for it, said Mace in a minor protest. All the same, I would like to meet this Qyburn. Besides, our choices and experts are not exactly forthcoming, Lord Tyrell. The Citadel hasn't sent us a new Grand Maester since we requested one, and Pycelle is too old and untrustworthy to enlist for this task. At this point, our best option is to use our newfound former Maester to perform the examination for us. Under close supervision, of course, said Naruto while knowing some Maesters had questionable hands. Yes, Your Grace, said Tyrion. News from the Iron Islands, Your Grace. Balon Greyjoy is dead, said Varys while this got everyone's attention. How? Asked Naruto curiously. Rumor has it he fell off a bridge during a storm. But my little birds tell me the act that caused the fall was due to another person on the opposite side. His brother Euron Greyjoy to be exact, said Varys while Naruto scowled since he had heard of the man during his time in Essos. Another fucking Greyjoy. What about Balon's daughter? Where is she in all of this? Asked Naruto while Varys shifted a little in his seat. Yara Greyjoy moved to claim the Salt Throne, but sadly she was ultimately denied by Euron's return during the nomination process. The fact the campaign against the North failed was another reason they chose Euron over her. Even after admitting he killed his brother, they still chose Euron over Balon's daughter. As such, she took those loyal to her side, took all the ships they had, and set sail for Essos at all the speed the winds could take them, said Varys while Naruto narrowed his eyes. She's going to form an alliance with Daenerys Targaryen, said Ser Davos, knowing it was the only reasonable conclusion. If she does, our Dragon Queen of Essos will have the start of a fleet should she need one to sail across the narrow sea, said Tyrion while everyone grimaced. It will be the start of one. She will literally need 1,000 ships to take her entire army from Essos to Westeros. Fortunately, the ships Yara Greyjoy took doesn't come close to that number. Which means we still have time to communicate with the Dragon Queen and keep the idea of an ally over a future enemy in her mind, said Naruto while knowing he didn't want there to be a battle, much less with one that had 3 dragons on the side of the opposition. There is another solution we have yet to consider, Your Grace, said Varys while Naruto looked at him now with his full attention. Another solution? Asked Naruto with the Master of Whispers nodding. Yes. One I had thought you might be able to use, but I was hesitant to mention it, said Varys while Naruto frowned. And why is that? Asked Naruto curiously. Because in doing so, the solution greatly insults House Tyrell in the process. I would not suggest it now, Your Grace, unless this was a possible option we might need to consider in order to avoid a future war, said Varys while glancing at Mace Tyrell, who had an idea of what this solution was and was slowly getting red in the face with anger. And this possible solution? Asked Naruto while motioning for Mace to hold his tongue to let Varys speak it. A possible marriage between Daenerys Targaryen and yourself, Your Grace, answered Varys with Mace looking insulted and the others in the room looking a tad uneasy. The king is already courting my daughter, and yet you would dare suggest he end their growing relationship for a marriage with no foundation, exclaimed Mace angrily at the idea. I must respectfully agree with Mace on this, Varys. An arranged marriage between myself and Daenerys would be like the one with my father and my mother. There is no love. No real connection. It is like mixing dirt and water. You get mud. At times, it can prove to be beneficial, as it was with House Stark and House Tully. But more times than not, it ends in a bitter, and quite possibly brutal failure, said Naruto while Mace breathed a small sigh of relief at the king's words. It is merely an option you should consider in the future should all other plans to keep the Dragon Queen from being our enemy fail, Your Grace. A last resort, said Varys while Mace looked furiously at him for suggesting it. Which means any desire for my daughter and His Grace to marry is put on hold for the gods know how long, protested Mace angrily while Naruto sighed. Calm down, Lord Tyrell. First, I have no intention of getting into an arranged marriage with Daenerys Targaryen, so you can unclench your intestines before they rupture from all of the stress they are under. Second, such an option, while indeed a last resort, will not be implemented since I intend to marry on my own terms, and with the woman of my choice. I will not have a marriage like my parents did, where it was arranged to be for the good of the realms, but turned into a nightmare. When I marry, it will be because I wish to marry, and not because the fate of the 7 kingdoms hangs in the balance, said Naruto with Mace looking relieved to hear that. Still, he would have to speak to Marjorie about possibly increasing the speed of the relationship with the king as humanly possible without it being considered offensive. Red Keep throne room. Shae could see why Tyrion was concerned for her safety while she stood in the presence of Tywin Lannister. The man, despite his elderly years showing, had a look, a posture, a form about him that screamed intimidation. He was a man who had done much in his life, seen much in his life, and still intended to do much in his life should the Lord of House Lannister wished it. And at the moment, she was caught in his gaze, his ever-judging gaze, while circling her with his arms crossed behind his back. Behind him and in front of her was the King of the Seven Kingdoms, watching this with amusement, and at times glanced over at his hand of the King Tyrion standing beside him. Shae saw her lover looking back at her with eyes that said, "Be confident" or "Show you are intelligent," and other number of things that in Tywin Lannister mind make her worthy of being with the young Lannister. "Lady Shae, you are originally from Essos, correct?" asked Tywin while he secretly admitted the woman was beautiful for a foreigner. "Yes, Lord Tywin. I am from the free city of Loreth. I came to Westeros to start a new life here," answered Shae while Tywin nodded for a second. "A new life spending your days as a whore," said Tywin while sending Tyrion scowling further. "Tywin, be civil. You would want the same for you if being questioned by, say, myself," warned Naruto while seeing his hand was getting angry at having his lover being called a whore. "My apologies, Your Grace," said Tywin while knowing he had to tread carefully when it came to questioning this woman in front of the queen. "Yes, Lord Tywin. I will admit, I was a whore for a time. I was with many men in order to survive with what little money I possessed," said Shae while knowing denying what she was until now would only hurt her. "And since you have been with my son? Have you whored yourself off to anyone else?" asked Tywin while Tyrion's hands became fists. "No. I have not been a whore since I met your son. He was kind to me. Good to me. More than any other man I have been with in the past," said Shae while she sneaked a look over at Tyrion, who smiled despite this inquisition. "Really? And this relationship between you two formed when exactly?" asked Tywin while he saw Shae look at him with sharp eyes. "Since your son learned of my existence when I was a camp follower in your army, Lord Tywin. It was before you named him temporary Hand of the King in your place until the war was resolved," answered Shae while Tywin narrowed his eyes at her looking for the lie to that statement. "And found none. So, you slept with him for his money at first," accused Tywin while Tyrion watched and really wished he was as tall as his father with a sword in hand. Namely to run his father through or take his head off. "Lord Tywin, what did I say about being civil?" asked Naruto in a warning tone with more force behind it. "It is all right, Your Grace. I am no stranger to being looked down upon by those of high standing for what I once was upon coming here," said Shae while she would not flinch in the face of accusations. "My son seems to believe you are a woman of intelligence despite your time whoring yourself to men prior to being with him," commented Tywin while not impressed by her determination. "Not yet. Your Grace, don't let him humiliate her." "Not for my sake," whispered Tyrion while he glanced at Naruto, who looked at his hand for a second. "Lord Tywin, this is your last warning. If you do not behave in a more civil tone, this conversation with Lady Shae is over, and there will be penalties aimed at you for defying me," said Naruto with his threat being clear to the Warden of the West. "I am intelligent, Lord Tywin. I am observant. I learn quickly. If someone intends to harm me or cause problems for Lord Tyrion, I make them realize it is not wise to cross me. As a woman growing up in one of the free cities in Essos, I learned that my body will only take me so far, and that I needed to be skilled in some manner of a blade to defend myself from unwanted advances," said Shae while Tywin raised an eyebrow at her. "And you have some skill with a blade?" asked Tywin curiously. "With a knife. Swords are too heavy. Knives can be drawn faster and can kill quicker. Especially if you know how to use them," said Shae while Naruto chuckled. "She's not wrong," commented Naruto, since knives were close-quarter weapons. "The kind you can draw fast and kill with even faster. Sword swings were wide and could be dodged or blocked easily. But at close range, they were a crutch. Knives up close were at their most lethal. I am not some meek weak-willed woman, Your Grace. Lord Tywin. If necessary, I will show I am a woman not be crossed," said Shae while Naruto chuckled some more. "Oh, I like her, Tyrion. She's perfect for you. Sharp mind. Sharp tongue. Clearly knows how to use a knife when necessary and not afraid to use it," commented Naruto with a smirk on his face. "Thank you, Your Grace," said Tyrion with a small smile on his face. And why do you think a woman of such low standing is worthy of being with my son? My son, who is not only the hand of the king, but also comes from the wealthiest house in all of Westeros, asked Tywin with Shae frowning. Because I do not care about his title or wealth. Lord Tyrion is smart. Cunning. He knows what people want to hear and what they need to hear when necessary. When the king's younger brother Joffrey sat on the throne, Lord Tyrion was not afraid to speak his mind on the boy's actions. He knew what needed to be done to save this very city from turning against the crown. To me, the mind is the most beautiful thing a man can possess, and Lord Tyrion's mind is one of the most beautiful I have ever seen used, said Shae with Naruto smirking further. Hold on to this one, Tyrion. You cheat on her with another woman, I will not protect you from her wrath, said Naruto while Tyrion nodding. I would be a fool to do that, your grace. I am no fool, said Tyrion while Naruto laughed at that. Indeed. I think we have heard enough. Lord Tywin, what do you think of Lady Shae here, said Naruto while Tywin just looked at her before glancing over at Tyrion. She has a backbone. Which is surprising to see in any woman, save for you few. She has intelligence, is observant, and from what I understand, has been faithful to my son since they have been together. As much as it pains me to say this, Lady Shae is worthy of my son Tyrion. For now. But should she stray from him, should she be unfaithful to him, even once, or should she sire another man's bastard child, I want her dead, said Tywin firmly while Shae glared at him, and so did Tyrion. I would never do that to Lord Tyrion, exclaimed Shae angrily at the old Lannister who would dare accuse her of being unfaithful to her lion. Easily, Lord Tywin. Let's not go that far. I have known about this relationship for quite a while now. Neither have strayed from the other. I have complete faith in these two and will not have you throw dirt on what they clearly have for a union. It is unbefitting of a Lannister, said Naruto with Tywin grimacing at the last part since it was true. Yes, your grace, said Tywin while moving away from the close proximity of Shae and turned to face the king. Now, as things stand, you have to return home to Casterly Rock to deal with your eldest son Jaime to carry out your end of the deal we made earlier. I expect to hear some good news regarding you being a great-grandfather within a year from now. And who knows, maybe Tyrion will beat Jaime to it if he and Shae try hard enough, said Naruto with a small chuckle with Tyrion making a noise. I expect a wedding between the two before that happens, your grace, said Tywin calmly despite his glance at Tyrion saying marry the girl before she gets pregnant or else, told his son this was not something to refuse. And there will be one in the future, so don't worry, grandfather. I understand the overall importance of family. Otherwise, I would have left House Lannister to die at the hands of the wolves from the north, said Naruto with Tywin understanding his meaning and gave the king a nod. If there is nothing else, I will be leaving for Casterly Rock, your grace. I have left the information with your new maester regarding Jon Arryn. I am hoping he will be able to put it to good use, said Tywin with Naruto nodding. Agreed. You may go, Lord Tywin. I wish you well on your journey home, grandfather, said Naruto while meaning it since the man was his family after all. Lord Tywin gave his grandson a small bow and despite everything that had happened, a small genuine smile. Tywin knew his grandson for a king would keep some measure of his legacy alive that did not bring him shame like his children had done in years past. My apologize, Shae. My father is not what you call reasonable when it comes to people he feels are trying to exploit the power of our house, said Tyrion after walking over to the woman he loved. I understand, my lion. You were right to warn me of him and I was foolish to act like it was nothing, said Shae since she had felt until today that Tyrion's father was not the man his reputation made him out to be when spoken. Now she knew better. Don't be ashamed, Lady Shae. Many who don't know Tywin Lannister, except through his reputation, would simply ignore such warnings. His very fear of people exploiting his house comes from when his father was Lord of House Lannister and made the lion seem weak. Grandfather corrected that in his own way by putting down to rebellious houses and made House Lannister a feared name to be respected when spoken, said Naruto before got out of his chair and walked toward the two. I would never do that to my lion. Or his house, said Shae with Naruto nodding. And I believe you. I also believe my uncle here loves you dearly simply because he has not set foot into one brothel since coming to King's Landing. You both complete each other and I wish you two a happy union, said Naruto with Tyrion smiling at his nephew, who was easily becoming his most favorite with Tommen becoming a close second. Thank you for your assistance in this, nephew, said Tyrion knowing his father wasn't more aggressive thanks to Naruto keeping the old lion from lashing out. Just be faithful and good to each other, Uncle Tyrion. That's all I ask, said Naruto while putting his hand on his uncle's shoulder. I will, nephew. I promise you that, said Tyrion before he walked off with shave with a smile almost skip in his step. Simply because dwarves don't skip. Not the ones from House Lannister at any rate. The wonders of young love. I should probably talk more with Marjorie over everything regarding the issue with Daenerys Targaryen. She should know before rumors fly off that I am going to marry the Dragon Queen over her. Knowing Mace, he will tell her stuff in an exaggerated way that makes me seem like some lying, cheating, whoring son of a bitch like father, thought Naruto while going to see the woman he was courting. Red, keep the gardens. So, you are not going to marry Daenerys Targaryen? Questioned Marjorie while she walked with Naruto through the gardens with their arms interlinked. No. Your father may have said otherwise to you, but the man is no doubt still worried about the idea being used to prevent an all-out war. He no doubt went on a raving panic when telling you about the meeting we had regarding her, said Naruto with Marjorie laughing since that was exactly what her father did. Yes. He was ranting and raving. I never saw his face so red before today, commented Marjorie since she thought her father's head would explode. Well, you can reassure him that I am not marrying Daenerys Targaryen. Varys was the one to suggest it. Not me, said Naruto with Marjorie's smile leaving her slightly. May I ask a question of you, your grace? Asked Marjorie while she looked at him and saw the king look back at her. Of course, replied Naruto. If marrying Daenerys Targaryen was the only way to save the Seven Kingdoms from a war and certain countless deaths, would you do it? Asked Marjorie while Naruto had a contemplative look on his face. I won't deny the option has its benefits for protecting the Seven Kingdoms in the name of the greater good. But at the same time, it hurts you, and dishonors your house. A scorn many would say is unwarranted and unjust for its years of loyal service to the crown as a whole. Regardless of who sits on the Iron Throne. I know I can't make everyone happy with the decisions I make. There will always be someone who dislikes my decision or the actions I take to keep the peace. I always felt, if I was to marry, it was to marry for all of the right reasons, and the woman I married loved me for me. Not the throne or the power it possesses when sitting on it, answered Naruto while Marjorie's smile increased slightly at his words. You still haven't answered my question, your grace. Though your attempt to get around it was truly impressive, remarked Marjorie while Naruto sighed and she giggled at his reaction to being caught. I suppose I didn't answer it. But in truth, I suppose I would, if such an option was the only one before me at the time. I know it may offend you, my lady, but no such an option would be considered a last resort on my part. I do not wish for a war, and given how Daenerys Targaryen has 3 fire-breathing dragons under her command, I do not want them unleashed on the Seven Kingdoms, said Naruto with Marjorie leaning her head against his shoulder while they continued walking. There are times I wonder if the gods are cruel to us with their rules. Just one man and one woman being together in a marriage. What if the man loves more than one woman? I have heard Dorne has an open mind over the issue and the Targaryens practice the idea of multiple wives to expand the numbers of their house much faster, said Marjorie while Naruto nodded. Yes. They wanted to have a large house so even if one heir was killed, there would be a countless number to replace him or her should that happen. Sadly, half of them went to the way of madness for the incestuous practice of marrying siblings within their house. The other went the way of war and nearly being wiped out in my father's rebellion, and he was only made king because of his own Targaryen blood, said Naruto while Marjorie laughed a little. Ironic, isn't it, your grace? For all his hatred of the Targaryens, your father was in fact descended from one, said Marjorie while Naruto nodded, but frowned in thought. Marjorie, if I were to take multiple wives to expand my family house, would you hold it against me? Even if you were one of my wives, asked Naruto curiously to the Tyrell woman. Why? Thinking of having your pigeon pie and eating it too, asked Marjorie with a smile, and Naruto laughed. As king of the Seven Kingdoms, I could do just that. I know the Mad King had multiple wives. One being his sister, but that is beside the point. My point is House Baratheon has gone to the brink of near annihilation with only myself, my cousin Lady Shireen, and my bastard half-brother Gendry, who I plan to legitimize when ready. I wish to expand my house back to the numbers it once possessed before it was reduced so low. Naturally, one woman would not be enough for such a thing, but I also know it will cause problems for the first woman I marry, said Naruto while Marjorie nodded, since the first wife would no doubt feel a great amount of dislike to the second or third woman in his life. Am I one of those women you wish to consider for expanding your family and your house? Asked Marjorie with Naruto giving her a knowing smile. May Abe. Just don't tell your father or grandmother though. I don't need one dancing around in joy like an idiot and falling down a flight of steps. Or the other coming here to give me a tongue lashing for not marrying you sooner, said Naruto knowing Mace and Olenna would do just that. Does that mean you finally wish to marry me, your grace? Asked Marjorie while Naruto chuckled. I need a little more time, Marjorie. I know I am asking a lot, but we are getting there. I am very fond of you. I love being around you. Your smile, your life, and the fact you do not simply nod your head in agreement to everything I say. You don't act like all those airhead women who act like a proper wife without having an actual idea to call their own. You are smart. You are a woman of the people. You are compassionate. You are a loving woman who knows as well as I do that the people are the very heart of the Seven Kingdoms. The foundation in which we rule over while here in King's Landing. If we do not rule justly, the Seven Kingdoms will break apart into nothingness, and the world will fall into chaos beyond recovery, said Naruto while Marjorie nodded. Everyone believes ruling over the Seven Kingdoms is easy when you are the king or the queen, but the number of responsibilities and weight put on the shoulders of royalty is immense, said Marjorie with Naruto nodding. Something both my father and mother were unable to comprehend when they ruled the Seven Kingdoms. One ignored his responsibilities while the other clearly went mad from the power that came from those responsibilities, said Naruto while hearing the stories of his own father neglecting his duties and his mother getting drunk off using her own. And the snakes they surrounded themselves with didn't help either. I look forward to the day we marry, your grace. I will prove myself worthy of not only being your devoted wife, but your supportive queen as well, said Marjorie while Naruto smiled further. Me too, my lady. Me too, said Naruto while the two continued their walk and holding the other close. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfiction. Looking forward to having you on board again.